Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fake behind it all? Teeth clenched tight with silver braces, rehearse my shame, rehearse my faces. You say I'm fine, I'm not alone. The world outside proves me wrong. No sideways looks my swan song. I talk like I'm above the mess, sleepwalk through my emptiness. Every promise that I can't feels borrowed, bent and delicate. Mirror, mirror, break your spell. You don't even know me well. Your cruelty is honesty, and I'm addicted to what I see. Mirror, mirror, bleed me clean. Show me what I've never seen. A devil tired of damnation. Angels born with salvation. I wear my sorrow like a joke. Drink it slow so I don't choke. Everybody looks annoyed, but ain't nobody want this void. Mirror, mirror, bleed me dry. Mirror, mirror, let me cry. Say I'm wrong, say I'm weak. I pray the Lord my soul will seek. If I should die before tonight, pyre, pyre, burning bright. I asked for help, I got the screen. Static feeling so obscene. Mirror, mirror, who's watching who? Mirror, mirror on the wall, I never learned to stand that tall. If this is me, then let me crawl. Just don't say I had it all. Mirror, 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 mirror on the wall. Mirror, 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 mirror on the
And good morning, best chat. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to this episode of delicious morning nonsense chat. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Hello to everyone. Hope you had a wonderful Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Fantastic Thursday so far. Oh man, chat. We had a good time. We had a really good time watching Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood yesterday. It was close. We almost finished the series, Chad. I think we're almost done with the series of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I think one more week ought to do it. Like next, if we can make it next week, boom, we got the. I think we can finish the series out. Actually, been pretty good. We got some major episodes down yesterday. Pretty cool. Let's see here, chat. Let me see here. Let's see. All right. Well, here we go, chat. Well, we have some interesting things to go over today. Let's see how they go. Interesting things, some topics to dive into, some fantasy stuff, some writing stuff, some fun stuff. Check it out. Let's see here, chat. He says, good morning, LD and Best Chat. Good morning to Carlos Batista. Hello to you. Good morning. Good morning. Sean TV God says, good morning, Elitchville and Best Chat. Remember to stay hydrated and stand against the evil. Just got approved for a mortgage yesterday. Very nice. Time to go house hunting. Very cool. Well, good luck to you, John Demigod. Hope things go excellent. Hope things go absolutely well and absolutely perfect. Dick Book Column, good morning to you. Go Mars says, good morning, everyone. Don't forget to get your workouts in today. Absolutely. Can't forget. Let's see. Abergioni says, good morning, everyone. Hello to Abergioni. Carly says, good morning, Litef and Best Chat. This should be a good time to check out Angel Sword TTRPG. I don't think I've heard of that before. I keep seeing good reviews and positive comments about it over D&D. Interesting. Well, yeah, I've seen a couple of videos going around, not on Angel Sword TTRPG, but what I have been seeing is the what was it? Is people coming in and talking about how Wizard of the Coast has switched gears here. Now, I wonder if this comes at the heels of the Wizard of the Coast's own investors, I think, kind of stepping in to try to say, hey, what the hell are you guys doing? Because not only have they been crumbling D&D into a bunch of diverse nonsense dust, it also has been gouging customers with their magic cards, saying, hey, we're gonna we see that you really like and pay a lot for a copy of this old school card. All right, it's not because not very many of them, so each one goes for a lot of money. We got an idea. How about we go ahead and print a ton of these, and you can buy yourself a copy right from us for that exact price. And then, of course, everyone starts swarming in to buy themselves a copy. And before you know it, everyone's got a copy. Oh my goodness, I have a copy of this really valuable card. Except it's not valuable anymore, is it? Because there's a lot. Because everyone has one. It's not all that valuable anymore, is it? So they kept doing that. They kept seeing like a valuable card in play, and then they said, "Oh, you know what? We'll go ahead and print more of that copy." And then they kind of rake in the cash up front. But then afterwards, the market is just dead because now that they have soured the market, they cashed in, and the price was souring the market. And I think even the investors of WotC are like, "What the hell are you guys doing? What is this nonsense?" But anyway, I keep seeing good reviews and positive comments about it over in D&D. Yeah, it's weird how D&D Wizard of the Coast is able to turn everybody against them. It doesn't matter the political background or viewpoints or whatever. Everyone hates Wizard of the Coast. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane how they managed to do this in this era. The only people that managed to keep are maybe some of their new target audience was just gay dudes and trans people. That's about it. Basically that audience that really likes, like, the new She-Ra and those Steven Universe. That's the audience that they kind of cater to, and that's the audience that still likes them. Everyone else kind of wants to go away. They kind of want to go walk over to another RPG. It's Garrett Tolkien Nerd says, I'm late. Well, not too late, but after missing 2 days, I have one reason. Other half took me out to lunch yesterday. Well, that sounds nice. So I had to miss live stream, but still feel that I let you guys down. Welcome back, Kara, the Tolkien Nerd. That sounds pretty good. A nice lunch. Fantastic. Well, that's a good reason to miss, if any. But welcome back. Glad to see you back. Glad to see your glorious return. Introspective Vims says, good morning, LD and Bez Chat. Good morning to you. Introspective Vims. Good morning to you. Shadow Tronics says, good morning, all except defeat. In that you win this time, but I'll be back. I'll be back next time, Batman, with a new plan to take over the universe. That sort of thing. Yeah. Admits is strong word, LD. The 5e fan projects like Mass Effect, Destiny, and Dark Sun 5e have done more for the brand than agenda chasing. We're the good guys. Trust the corporation. They think we're stupid, and look how that's going. Yeah, it's not going too well. They've been kept alive by the fans. The bands they don't like very much. They keep betraying. They can be kept alive by that because fans have been putting together things that people actually want to play and people actually want to buy. As opposed to, we're going to eat up another IP and turn that into, another gay module for our gay players, because that's kind of what D&D has turned into, the gay tabletop RPG. because somewhere down the line, someone at Voice of the Coast said, "You know what? This is a good idea. How about we just scare away all of our entire customer base and just market towards gay people, and that's about it. We're gonna make the trust us. We're the clean corporation." Because what they've been doing is not only streamlining the rules, which to an extent I approved of with 5e because it made things a lot easier. And you can go back to 3.5 if you want a little bit more complexity. But to me, 5e kind of sat right where I kind of like it. No, it still has a certain level of complexity, but it's streamlined enough that it's kind of easy to get into. That sort of thing. So it was okay to me. I kind of like that part, but it can just cutting it up, cutting more and more and more flavor and humanity off of D&D. So because everything seems racist. We want to get rid of that stuff. So we get rid of racial bonuses. First of all, they got rid of like racial negatives and stuff like that because that's racist. And we don't, and of course no one wants any negatives. But then they got to kind of get rid of racial anything. And now it's like all done to occupations and jobs or whatever. So basically, your race, I think, has become more of a paint job as opposed to just a set of other skills that you might have. So it's they got to start carving off more and more and more and more of the flavoring and the humanity until pretty much every character is the same. It's in everything different about your character is aesthetics. Like there's no actual difference of me playing I don't know what thing's called a tiefling. There's no real difference between playing a tiefling over a human. It's just my character has horns. That's about it. It's about it. And of course, they're gonna play a tiefling because tiefling is their chosen race. That's kind of it. The Wokies and the weird sex pest audience that they wanted for some reason wanted to enter into their gaming community. They all want to play tieflings because one, tieflings are attractive and they come with a couple other things. But 3, they are really close to demons. They like that. And 4, they have oppression built in. Like the people don't really trust them and stuff like that. So that's their dream race. They get to be really pretty, really powerful. They get to be close to demons without actually being a devil, but close enough. And then also they have oppression. There's oppression built in because everyone hates them. Perfect for them. But ultimately, their core, like D&D's core audience, has always been like these hardcore tabletop gamers. These guys who just go in there, make a race or make a character. And yeah, you have an adventure, you have a cool little story, an adventure, but really it's about following these cool rules, making this feel as realistic as feasibly possible, and challenging yourself. That's kind of what it was. Going in there, fighting monsters, getting treasure. Except now you get story modules where that kind of give you context behind the dungeons and the treasure and the monsters and all that stuff. And then you get social interactions, which are pretty cool. But really, it's about that. The core gameplay is about diving deep into some sort of dungeon or castle or manor or whatever it is to kill some evil noble or steal some treasure, or slay some king, some goblin king, and plunder his vaults. That's kind of what the core gameplay was. Fighting monsters. It's very combat centric, all that stuff. They kind of took that all the way once they started doing the whole 5e is for everyone thing, where now it's more about social issues and being gay and less about combat. Now, is there combat? Yes, but they put more and more padding in there. So to coddle you so that you're not going to die, don't worry. There's so many ways to come back to life. There's so many ways to save your character. You get so many other chances. It's basically this, every battle is very simple, very, very, very simple, very, very, very soft, as opposed to other games and heck past editions of D&D. It's been castrated essentially. Let's see here. That person, thanks for the comment. Morning, everyone. Hello to you. Tyler Preston, good morning, good morning, good morning. Limfen says, praise be to LD, President, of course, Space King. 4 days left on my vacation. Hopefully I get to enjoy some of it and get some things done for me. This weekend, I'm fixing mom's sink and washer. Very cool, very cool, very cool. Aluminum fence. Very nice. Well, good luck to you. Evan says, good evening, Shivel and BC Chuds. D&D keeps losing while its customers keep winning. Yeah, that's kind of how it goes because they're just idiots over there. I don't know what the hell they've been thinking, making these sorts of decisions, these sorts of moves. they should be catering to their core audience first. All right, first and foremost, not trying to demonize their core audience or not care about them, take them for granted, and then try to cater to the politically correct audience. It makes them feel righteous and good. Let's see. Phoenix Picasso says, "Good morning, everyone." Hello to you, Phoenix Picasso. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hello to you, hello to you. Let's see here. Fast says, "Good morning, LD and Best Chat. I've been having fun jamming without the Full Metal Patriot, an automatic singer. Very cool. Great metal and creative music channels. Very nice, very nice. Sounds like a lot of fun." The person says, "Colbert is a fan of Tolkien work. However, I don't think he can leave the TDS at the door." That's weird. I don't think that is he. I never thought of him as a Tolkien fan. That's weird, but yeah, even if he was, and there's a reason why he's on board, there's definitely going to be some Trump allegories in there. And no, I don't really. Nobody really wants that. I'm tired of all the anti-Trump stuff in media. Like, you don't have. Not every bad guy has to be Elon Musk or Trump. You don't have to. There are other bad guys out there. Let's see. But yeah, there's no way. Stephen Colbert is not mature enough to do that. I don't think. Insane. Iggytrace looked at. Watch the StarCon Trek Wars Farscape BSG Andromeda Mass Effect crossover. It's a crossover video. That must be one insane crossover video. Let's see. Billy Power Max. Hello to you. Hail. Hello to you. Hello to you. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Megalithon says, "Good morning, LD and Best Chat." Good morning to you, Megalithon. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Gray Des says, "Hi, LD and Best Chat. I recently purchased Baldur Gate 3, and I'm new to D&D franchise. No prior experience with TTRPG, but why is every male companion gay for my MC? It's just a thing, all right? This is the modern day. That's like I said before. That's where D&D is. Everyone's gay, so so watch out. First of all, Astarion he's a seductor, I guess you could say. He's not a seductress, he's a seductor. He's just gay. Gale is surprisingly somehow gay for your main character, even if it doesn't make a lick of sense, because he's in love with Mistra. Like, his whole thing is about being in love with Mistra, and how she was his love companion, all that stuff like that. So it's just how it goes. Basically, every single character in that game is essentially bisexual until further notice. That way, regardless of whether you pick a male or female character, you can fall in love with whoever you want. So I guess I don't know. You take that as you will. I remember there being a more rigid, strict thing for Dragon Age Origins back in the day. Then everyone complained like, "Oh, but I want my character to get with this guy or that girl," and all that stuff. Although Dragon Age Origins had it where it was based on male and female, so most of the characters are straight in Dragon Age Origins. Most of them. Liliana's like bisexual, but most of them are straight. Let's see, and then we have Dragon Age. What's it called? Inquisition, I think it was. I think it's Inquisition, where they had the elf guy. I forgot what his name was, Solar or whatever, but the bald elf guy. They upgraded with that guy because it's not about male and female with him. It's about female. He's straight, but also racist. So he will only date you if you are a female elf. So they could have upped their game with that guy. But in the Baldur's Gate 3, while it is a really, really cool game, I liked it quite a bit. The characters are bisexual until further notice. But however, how I balance this all out, right, is I did the same thing I did with Harry Potter Legacy. Or Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy, that game. So in Hogwarts Legacy, I know that they did the whole diversity thing. So it's like 80% minorities and brown people versus like 20% white people, despite being in freaking England. So and then there's trans people, whatever, in there. So what I did was I made a blonde, blue-eyed, white character who saves the day. So a literal white savior. I did something very similar in Baldur's Gate originally, but then I kind of like the Dark Urge thing, and I kind of feel like he was meant to be a Dragonborn. I would never have chosen Dragonborn otherwise, but because they defaulted the Dark Urge to a Dragonborn, I kind of felt like I had to play him as a Dragonborn. But otherwise, I made like a blonde, blue-eyed white paladin who's very, very straight. to save the day. Perfect stuff. Perfect stuff. Livas is what actually is a tiefling? It's like a weird. It's a cursed human, I think. I think usually they're cursed humans, and what that means is that somewhere down the line, one of their ancestors made a deal with the devil, or a devil, or I think it's a devil, not a demon. Specifically, they made a deal with the devil, and then that kind of tainted the bloodline a little bit, so that somewhere down the line in their um descendants, one of them will be cursed to look like a demon. So basically, they are a tiefling is a person who looks like a demon. They have horns and everything. They don't have to necessarily be evil, but they have horns and they have the different skin tone, basically like walking, talking devils. Um, but depending on which devil your ancestor made a deal with, you get like a different variation of tiefling. And because their tieflings were made for a certain group, they were made essentially for these guys. This the modern audience essentially. They're attractive. They're very close to the devil, and they have oppression going on because people don't trust them because they're so close to the devil. They come in a variety of colors. You can have red, blue, green, purple. You can have a variety of colors on per tiefling. So it does always kaleidoscope skin color. It's just perfectly forged for the modern audience. And furthermore, according to I think what Ed Greenwood, he came out and officially he's the guy that made I think this whole world that Baldur's Gate 3 even takes place in. And what's it called? Forgotten Realms or whatever. That's kind of the realm where tieflings exist. He canonically said that tiefling's breast milk tastes like cinnamon milk or something like that, because his players really like to role play, and that was the main reason he gave for that. Poor Legion, good morning. Have you seen the new Black State music video by Puri Chad? Yeah. It is going to be kind of funny because the storyline now is that Ginny, or well, not Ginny, Lily, Harry Potter's mom, was this talented white witch woman who was friends with this black guy, this black wizard when they were kids, but ultimately chose White Chad over Snape's BBC, turns out. Hello to you, Lube Lifts. Hi, little Dev. Hello to you. Hello to you. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Let's see here. Bunster says that shit drove me nuts in Baldur's Gate 3. You mean yeah, okay. So in Baldur's Gate 3, they're a little aggressive, especially Gale. The Gale's incident became legendary because it just comes out of nowhere. Like he's like, "Oh, hey, friend, how you doing? You want me to show you some magic? It'd be pretty cool." And like, okay, sure, I could do some magic. And you kind of thinking that, you know what, maybe I can maybe get some experience or something like that with in magic. Maybe you might end that scenario with like a cantrip or something. That's something substantial, but a little something. But it flows right into, oh, so we're in love now, right? Wait, what? I thought it was bros, bro. Let's see. Let's see here, chat. Where are we now? Frosta, have a nice day. Hello to you. Does Drow's taste like chocolate? I don't know. He didn't confirm that. Just the tieflings. All the tieflings got confirmed. Let's see here, chat. Let's see here. 1 second here. Here we go. All right, here we go, chat. All right, I found this piece of news. I think it's pretty fun. I'm going to go. I want to see what exactly happened because it turns out that Wizard of the Coast knows they've messed up big time when they drove almost literally everybody away. All right, so let's check it out. They know they effed up. Brought to you by, of course, by Cloud and Fish TV.
So we're going to talk about what's going on with Dungeons and Dragons and the Gygax legacy. Of course, Gary Gygax, co-creator of Dungeons and Dragons, along with Dave Arneson. His family has had a very acrimonious relationship with the current owners of Dungeons and Dragons, Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro. And now,
keep in mind, Arneson is the guy that made a lot of the things that we know of, according to what I read about the history. Right, Gygax kind of formed the idea and a lot of the components about realism because he was a war gamer. Like he was really into the Napoleonic Wars and everything. So But Arneson got on board. He was the one that turns out, for according to what I've read, he was a guy that came up with the idea for levels, so you wouldn't have to start up a whole new guy every time, so you can like continue the story with the same guy for next adventure, and story modules. He's the guy who came up with story modules. Which, by the way, if we don't know, story modules was how they got women to play D&D. So before then, it was like mostly guys, but story modules allowed women like drew in women into the hobby. So laying the foundation of proving the idea that you actually don't need women in prominent roles in the story or whatever to have women want to play it. All right, women it's not just like, oh, there's a woman as a lead character. As a woman, I should go watch it. Like, no, that's ridiculous. All right. What Arneson was able to do was he was able to add on to Dungeons and Dragons the possibility for romance, social conflict, social interaction, and things like that. Extra story, extra context. See, a lot of guys are kind of discontent with like, I don't care what the circumstances are. I just want to go in there, kill some monsters, and loot some treasure. But with the addition of the story, women were coming into with interest. And the thing is, everyone likes a cool story to give context to the adventure they're going into. So men liked it too. So story modules, things like that, became a mainstay in the hobby. It's pretty cool stuff. So I always think about that example when it comes down to everyone kind of saying that, oh, we got to make this more for women, so therefore we got to take down all the male characters and replace them all with women. We got to just retire all the male heroes and replace them all with their teenage daughters for some reason, and that'll get women reading things, right? That'll get women reading stuff. Okay, that's not how it works. Okay, that's not how it works. People are not attracted to gender things. All right, they're not attracted to their own gender in terms of, I want to read this. It has a male protagonist, so it must be for me. I'm going to like it. That's not how it works. All right, because men will despite what they might say in Hollywood. All right, men will read stuff with a female lead. It's not irregular. It's not uncommon. But what they will read with the female lead will be like an adventure story. That's kind of what's going on there. And the female lead will be running, going through an adventure, fighting some sort of demon king or whatever, going through this journey of physical conflict. Okay, that's what men will kind of voluntarily read. Now, if that man is involved in like a romance story where he's trying to find like his one true love or whatever, and it's all about be his first day at college or something like that, it's not necessarily going to be for men. It's probably going to be more for women, because that's going to be more social conflict. Now, if it's like a crude, raunchy comedy, might draw in some dudes, but for the most part, if it's about touchy-feely romance stuff, it's going to be for women. That's how it goes. So ultimately speaking, you're not, it shouldn't be down to what demographic is this. It should be down to knowing your audience, right? It should be down to who am I writing for? Not men or women necessarily, but who am I writing for? Who's going to like this? Now, sometimes the answer is, oh, men will or women will, but it's not as clean as that. A lot of times it's, okay, men who like this side of the story will like this. Like if I write a pirate story, it's probably going to, my main priority is probably going to be guys who like pirates. And then you kind of look into, okay, what do they like? What do guys who like pirate stories like in their pirate stories? And then you kind of do research into this. It's kind of, Brandon Sanson goes over this. And if you look into the indie craze that the Amazon helped usher in, this is a big part of the suggestions that they give you, some advice that they give you, is that if you want to write a story, you got to know who you're writing for, and you got to know exactly what they are searching for in stories that involve this topic, right? So it's not just about like, I write a pirate story, so therefore so dudes who like pirate stories are going to come in and read it. Like, no, they're looking for things. Right? They're looking for things. They're looking for, okay, I want a pirate story. The pirate stories need to have this. You got to know the tropes, like, right? So you make a cyberpunk story, you got to have big corporations, for example, right? It's not just about, there being cybernetics in guys with cybernetics in their arms or something. You got to have the full aesthetic. You got to have, it's not necessarily all the time. but in general, cyberpunk readers will be expecting like a dark storylines and towering skyscrapers, greedy corporations, and the government's bending the knee to these corporations. That's kind of what they're kind of expecting, right? When coming into a cyberpunk story. Heck, even Ghost in the Shell was like that. So, you can do something different, but even if you do something different, you kind of want to know exactly what they're expecting anyway. Learn the rules so you can break them like artists. So, like you if you want to write a cyberpunk story, you got to learn what the audience looks for in that story, and then so exactly how to change them and be different about it, to make them so that they're still interested, even if you're not giving them exactly what they're looking for. Right. So it's kind of like that. It's kind of like that. Anyway.
Now, Luke Gygax
have a lot of fans.
Yeah, has have a lot of fans. Luke Gygax was at GaryCon this weekend. They did a big kind of a press announcement that it seems like they're going to try to course correct Dungeons and Dragons. They're trying to win back the trust of fans. I personally think.
You mean, does it make any money?
That's exactly it. I think the money has run out. I think that the
Shocker.
2024 edition of D&D did not sell very well. We have a lot of anti-D&D sentiment because of people associated with the franchise now attacking Gary Gygax, attacking old school fans. They're mocking old school fans, even in dumb stuff like Thaco the Clown. And I mean, it's just like they've gone out of their way to antagonize the existing audience.
See, this should not happen. All right. If Wizards of the Coast and the D&D guys were doing their jobs correctly, this shouldn't be happening. Because what ended up happening was they brought in the evil bad guys. They brought in the bad, evil audience that's not there for D&D. They're there to destroy things. They're there to ruin stuff, right? So they're bad actors. They want to change the hobby as opposed to be part of the hobby. And so they got in there and started wrecking shop. And so this is kind of where you get the conflict. The new players are coming in off of like a Critical Role and wanting everything to be politically correct and everyone to be gay and all that stuff like that. And wanting everything to be streamlined and easy and no combat, or at least not very critical combat with lasting consequences. They're making fun of the old D&D guys because they want something completely different because the game has changed that much. And so old D&D guys are being mocked. They're basically, to put it another way, the core audience of the D&D hobby are being mocked by the new toxic fans that politically correct Rainbow Watsy has drawn into the hobby.
And we really do have two different audiences for Dungeons and Dragons now. We have the people that came in with 5e and Critical Role that see it as theater kids LARPing with their OCs, and then we have the old school fans that still see it as a game. And those two groups have been kind of butting heads for at least probably a decade now, and I think it's decimated the hobby for sure. Tabletop, we've talked about before. I was shocked how political this scene has gotten. More so than comics, more so than anime. I mean, there's a lot of
so that's I think that's a really good point about all this. That's the big difference here. So old school D&D guys, they got really into the world of D&D. They got into like the living there, like the mindset of someone who lives there. So it was part gamer, part role player. That's kind of what they were doing in the old school guys, old school D&D players. They got really into their characters and had some fun with it. In terms of realism in gaming, that's how they got into it. Was like, my guy came from this area and he's of this race. So realistically speaking, I should be able to, know this language and I should be able to know this. So they kind of based everything off of one half gaming, one half their role, and kind of putting them together. And that's kind of a good balancing of the roles of gaming versus role play. But now, years later, they've been kind of going to war against the gaming aspect, where they don't really want that, because what does gaming do? The gaming aspect do it's numbers, it's crunchy, it's tough. It gives you the ability to fail, And the ability to fail is not very attractive to the modern audience. So I'm slowly carving away at the gameplay aspect. So they got rid of negatives. They got rid of the idea that your stats can, start off below 10. So like 10 became more and more of a standard character. Like all your stats are just 10. And you can go from there. Things like that. So they give you lots and lots of variety, but not very many penalties. As opposed to previous editions were like, okay, so you pick this race, so you automatically get fewer strength, but you get more dexterity, or something like that. And then they kind of carve more and more away, so that because this is based on race, well, that's racist, so we got to carve that away. And also, heck, we can't really have our players lose, can we? That's not going to be very fun. So gameplay, battles, and conflicts became easier and easier to get through, because we can't really have our players die. That's not very fun. So essentially, it became more about role play. And yeah, so the description of old school gamers / role players versus today, which are just basically just a bunch of gay theater kids playing their OCs in a fantasy world. Big difference.
Activists and stuff and whatever. But the tabletop scene somehow wound up being completely taken over by a lot of activists, and they've been actively trying.
Yeah, buy a lot. Buy is a key word there.
To drive out anybody that isn't as progressive as they are. And it's not enough to just say,
like
hey,
any other fandom that they keep coming into.
Oh yeah. But it's a lot more noticeable in tabletop. I mean, I there's just some crazy stuff. They're blacklisting people or whatever. But the Gary Gygax, they have really been going out of their way to smear his name for at least a decade plus. Of course, he's not here to defend himself. And then, his kids have tried to defend him and they get dismissed. And WotC doesn't want to own it because they don't want to offend their
probably call Gary Gygax an old racist white man or something like that.
Progressive audience. And even in the 50th anniversary D&D book, they're throwing shade at these guys, saying that, hey, the game's a lot more progressive. Basically, the game's a lot more progressive now because it was invented by a bunch of middle-aged white dudes, cis white dudes from the flyover states.
And that's what first thing I said to you. Like when you
like, they're so angry that it is a bunch of white guys who make these awesome things and all these awesome games in America. They really resent that. They really do. I mean, just make your own stuff. I mean, even when they want to make their own game, it's like they're copying like Lovecraft. Like there's like, we're going to base it on Lovecraft, but I hate Lovecraft because he's racist, but we're going to use his ideas anyway. How about you make your own ideas? How about you make your own tabletop game with your own rules? But they can't. They don't like it. They don't want to do the work, but they just resent the fact that the work that has been done a lot of the times by a white guy. They don't like it.
You told me that they're trying to walk it back now. I was like, but even in the anniversary book, they were shitting on the fans and the original creators.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, how are you going to walk this back? I mean, I appreciate the fact that, they're trying to correct it, but I think they're only doing it because of money.
Yeah, no, I agree.
They could have corrected this a long time ago when they saw it was getting out of hand. And they saw that these people that they courted were going out there, and then their own people were going out there, alienating the fans. They were blocking people. Weren't they blocking people that were old D&D people from like conventions and shows and stuff like, and they weren't allowed. They were bringing in all these activist ones as the guests, and they were blocking people who weren't.
Yeah, there's been a lot of issues with the old school the TSR crew. And and we had Robert J. Kuntz on, and I might actually link to that in this video, who was there at the beginning, and he's disgusted by how Gary Gygax has been treated. Elon Musk got involved in a conversation about it and basically told Wizards of the Coast,
Elon Musk,
to go to hell.
Good. Even Elon Musk, man, they really messed up. The Wizards of the Coast really messed up, huh? Why Elon Musk use Dungeons and Dragons to be racist? Yeah, why not? Why can't it be racist? What's wrong with Dungeons and Dragons and fantasy stories being racist? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with there being racism in there? It's part of the world. So sorry that your mentality cannot handle real world anything, and that every single fantasy story you have to make has to be essentially California or something, or not even California, because I mean they're the worst. They're some of the worst, but what they think it should be like what they think themselves as, where they think that, oh, everyone's kumbaya, everyone gets together, everyone kind of tolerates everyone. That's not how they act or conduct themselves at all, but it is how they want to view themselves. So when they make a fantasy story, it's been like, okay, well, everyone gets along, all the races are kumbaya and harmony, and the bad guys are actually Trump or something. I don't something like that. So it's all together. It's all kumbaya. Everyone works together. They can't really handle real world things because that's too scary and way too icky. This can't do it. Yeah, exactly. Evil cannot create. It can only corrupt. So that's how you know that these activists are truly evil.
And people were joking he should buy Hasbro. And since then, this is about 2 years ago. Since then, we've seen the 2024 version of Dungeons and Dragons collapse. It cratered. A lot of people associated with that era of Dungeons and Dragons have gotten gone. Some of them have gone to work for Critical Role. And now D&D seems to be under new management. Now they're extending an olive branch to Luke Gygax.
I see. All right. Well, let's see how this goes.
How many people are going to want the
All right. Let's talk about this olive branch. I want to hear more about this olive branch.
olive branch when they've been like told for years, we don't want you here, and they were vilified to chase after people who, frankly, they weren't even buying the shit. They were probably pirating it, or like their one friend bought a copy and they all shared it. And they weren't. You know, you were making literal coffee shop and a wizarding college where you could date the professors and, you know, F all the weirdos and stuff like that for these people. And the thing is, they keep going on about how they were gatekeeping the space because they have to keep it for everyone. But the thing is, we've mentioned it many times before, no one ever kept them out at all. Like, they were never told they couldn't be there. The problem is, like, they can't, these people come in and they're never kept out. And I'm not saying you should keep people out, but they came in, and then when they get in there, you have to do what I want. And then they just they push everyone else out. But like, this whole narrative that they weren't included before is bullshit, because you could always make your character however you wanted to.
And see, Shadowing Jordan says everything is better when they service us. The popular things must be made for them and only them. Even if they have to strip out everything that made them popular. Yeah, the way they're going with Dungeons and Dragons is essentially going to be everything's a gray blob, right? Everything's going to be gray blob. There's no differences between anyone else, because the woke nonsense, the woke mindset seems to be, according to their practice, is very anti-human, very anti-individuality, very anti-human. Their viewpoints do not connect with humanity. You cannot be human and woke at the same time. It's just impossible. Not even they can do it. That's why they're always scared about being canceled, because they can't do it themselves. They can't uphold themselves with their own morals. Morals, because they don't really have morals. They have what is convenient at the time. Leif says the tourists need to learn to compartmentalize. It creates automatic boundaries and, ironically, allows for more freedom for imagination and fun. Yeah, that's what most people want to do, is have imagination, use their imagination, have fun, create creative stories. But no, their only focus is on, is this racist? Is this politically correct? Until we get to everything's a gray blob. Everything's and even now, like New Rings of Power, they're going to make another season, and they promise that this season is going to be the most diverse season anyone has ever seen. With demisexual elves. It's like, are we really here for sexuality? It was like a porno you're making. Why does sexuality matter so much? I thought it was supposed to be about the big epic sweeping story. Espen Seven says these activists always create things that essentially are about themselves, and nothing else, since everything else they do is fueled by their selfishness, ego, and deep-rooted insecurities. It really is all about them projecting. It's like their number one thing is they always project their own insecurities, their own biases on someone else, and they apply to you not something real, but they apply to you some fiction they've made up, basically like off of Reddit or something. They don't picture you as a real conservative, or real Trump voter, or real middle person. They see you according to their fiction, their fan fiction that someone made. You have to be racist. You have to be white and Catholic. That's kind of why it's really funny to see today all these activists on Twitter going, "What? There's non-white ICE people? Like, there's non-white ICE agents? There's black ICE agents? There's a lot of Hispanic ICE agents? What is all this? Like, how is it possible?" Well, yeah, because you live in a bubble and this is the real world. Because in the real world, most people who are not morons know that it's not about attacking Hispanics. It's about attacking illegal immigration, which is what literally every country in the world does. But only in America do we get demonized for patrolling our own borders, right? And that's it. But they're just astonished that they would think that, oh, Hispanics and black people would be like, oh yeah, come over, illegal immigrants. Yeah, do that. Like, no. Normal people know that that's nonsense. Normal people know that it's not about pressing someone. It's about getting rid of illegal immigration and making sure that stuff doesn't happen.
Like, that was always open to everyone the whole time.
Yeah, this whole conversation, it spilled over from a conversation about Tolkien and a conversation about fantasy and some academic discussion about racism and fantasy and why is it so white.
Academics, you know damn well it's going to be a bunch of bullshit. These people just make up. It's like when you have it's like people like sensitivity readers, like they hired a bunch of them, but they have to find problems or you don't have a job. Like DEI, like the heads of HR for DEI, they have to find problems. They don't exist or they don't have a job.
Right, and there were sensitivity readers hired for Dungeons and Dragons. They were taking like the word slave out. They were taking anything that was potentially problematic. You couldn't call anybody crazy or insane.
You couldn't be a witch. Was that what they took out witches?
There were several things that they took out. There's like a list of things. And basically they pulled all the teeth out of Dungeons and Dragons.
What a spooky thing to do.
We're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about Luke Gygax saying that going forward they're going to try to apparently rein all this stuff in. I don't know. I think I will give them props for reaching out to the Gygax family. Unfortunately, Ernie is no longer with us. I had a conversation with Ernie a couple of years ago. Great guy. I talked to him for like 2 hours, and I got to give a hat tip to GPA for connecting me with him. But he was a great guy, and
they gotta de-wokeify in order to what would be a good olive branch, de-wokeifying their entire hobby, right? They're whatever it is. Like, it's not a franchise, is it? Like, not the same way a movie is, I guess, but de-wokeify their product, de-wokeify it, bring it back to the norm. All right, get rid of that woke disease. It just hurts everything it touches. It's just it really is a disease. But anyway, chat, it turns out that things are taking a turn with Dungeons & Dragons. Like, you know what? We're tired of taking losses. They're tired of taking L after L after L, right? They're tired of it. They want the players back. They want the customers back. But who knows if they will come back after all that. I do not envy the guy whose job it is to re-court all those fans that have been driving off for years. Anyway, chat, let's talk about this real quick, right? Let's talk about this. It's called Your Fantasy Politics Need this Middle Layer. So let's see what this guy is talking about with fantasy politics. Let's check it out. King Cater says, good morning, Lit Dev, and all. Hello to King Cater, and good morning, good morning, good morning. Phoenix Picasso says that's because normal people who actually grew up and live in the communities where illegals come to live, see negative impact on actual citizens. Yeah. Illegal immigration is a concern in pretty much every country for a reason. All right, there's a reason why we have border patrol. Like, every country has border patrol, but only in America are we demonized for upholding our own borders. But anyway, check it out. Your fantasy politics need this middle layer. What could this middle layer possibly be? Let's check it out.
And I can probably tell why. You're missing the middle layer. The vassals. This is where empires actually crumble. And by the end of this video, you won't just build a hierarchy, you will build betrayal machines. Let's fix your politics. World builders create a flat hierarchy. King at the top and 5 great houses below. Done. But that is not how power works. And therefore,
a betrayal machine is pretty good. It's basically a conflict machine.
Your politics will feel empty. And there is another major problem. You're treating loyalty like a switch. On or off. Loyalty isn't simple. It is layered, it's conditional, and it always has a history. You haven't asked, why are they loyal? Politics of the great houses can be divided into 3 layers. Layer 1, the great houses. They want to expand, influence, weaken rivals, control the throne, but they cannot attack each other directly. and therefore they use their vassals as proxies. And there's layer 2, the vassal houses. And this is where the gold is. This layer is the fuel for your stories. Say a vassal house is sworn to Great House A, but maybe they're married into Great House B. Sometimes what their lord wants conflicts with what they want. And then we have layer 3, the individual lords.
So great houses, vassals, individual lords. Interesting.
This layer is full of personal ambitions, secret alliances, personal grudges, you name it. And every layer affects the others. And I will come back to that shortly. Each great house has a reputation, a brand, so to speak. And this is what they are known for in your world. But do not be mistaken, their vassals have different reasons to be loyal to them. Let's build an example. House Stormcrown, the storm remembers, honor. Or House Ironvolt, gold breaks chains, wealth and ruthlessness. House Drakemont, fire bends all, conquest. The brand sets expectations. Some vassals match the brand and some don't. And that is where betrayal lives. Because every vassal is loyal for one of 7 reasons. Here's one: debt loyalty. 1,000 years ago, House Seaborn was exiled from the south. They had nothing. And House Stormcrown gave them the port.
This is kind of what I like about dwarves from Warhammer, is that they have a big book of grudges and stuff like that. Because the grudge. So I played the Warhammer 40, Warhammer Total War, and it was pretty fun playing the dwarves. And the main general is the grudge bearer guy. Pretty fun stuff. He just carries around a big book full of grudges. So yeah, it's not the same exact debt, but it's kinda right. It's kind of. He just records all the grudges that dwarves keep, and it's awesome. Let's see. Olympus says, "Oh yeah, LD. It's one of the ways they nerf the GOP in Philly. They make it hard for us to recruit ward leaders and committee people. The guys like me who actually make sure to go out and vote." Yeah, they always accuse Republicans of voting of cheating, because it's only bad when Republicans try to fight for themselves. Democrats can just break any law they want, and it's all okay. No one bats an eye. But the Republicans start to fight back a little bit and try to, shore themselves up a little bit. Suddenly everyone loses their minds. Crazy stuff. Yeah, the Warhammer Fantasy. That's an Age of Sigmar. Age of Sigmar. That's what it was. So I played the what was it? The dwarves. I played the dwarves. Pretty fun playing the grudge bearer. Pretty cool stuff. Just took over a lot of the area with the dwarves. But I do remember them. The dwarves have a huge thing about holding grudges and repaying those debts and revenge lasting decades or centuries.
City of Whitehaven. House Seaborn never forgot. The storm remembers. The strength of this loyalty is that it is incredible.
Megalithon should send $1 super chat. Very, very much appreciated. Very first super chat of the day. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Megalithon. Appreciate it. Here we go. And so the more I learned, the more I'm convinced that wokies don't like stories. I don't think they do. They like fiction, but they don't. They want it. It needs to be real life. It's kind of crazy. Like they want stories. They want fictional stories to reflect real life or real life social issues that they are concerned with, but in their way. So that's why they accuse us all the time of going, "Oh, you only liked it because it catered to your politics." Like, no, you only like things because it catered to your politics. That's not how everyone else functions. So they want they want. That's why I think it's how we get children cartoons made for adults, because they want the coddling level of a child's cartoon, but they want the child's cartoon to be soft, Barney the Dinosaur-esque, very coddling and very colorful and bright and safe, but also they want to talk about like modern day issues that really wouldn't interest children or be understood by children. So they want the coddling of a child's cartoon combined with the allowances of a adult cartoon. And this is how you get really creepy sex pests. There's a really creepy sex pest audience. It's really crazy stuff. Happening with TV Universe, She-Ra, all that stuff. Like it happens like every time. It's weird, but yeah, they want the soft coddling nature of a kid's cartoon with the allowances of an adult cartoon. And that's kind of what their main thing has been. So they like stories, but only if it reflects only if it coddles them and then also addresses the topics from the real world that they are interested in, and it does so on their side, on their terms. It sides with them on their interest of topics. So if we talk about like abortion issue, of course the show will be pro-choice, and it'll be all about how the pro life people are evil and backwards and all that stuff. So it's basically just propaganda, but it's just about, patting him on the head, giving a glass of chocolate milk, and saying, "Oh, we accept you, and yeah, you're totally right about all those evil Republicans." It's kind of how it goes. But anyway, she likes stories. Often taboo is the crunchy meat part of a story that explores the interesting conflict and aspects of being human. The taboo for them is just oppression, right? They want to feel like rebels by indulging in the taboos of society, which is not really about philosophy or anything like that. It's more about I'm a boy that kisses boys. Ha ha ha. That's about where it ends. That's kind of where it is. They don't really want to go deeper than that. That's why they so focus on sexuality and everything. So their concerns are with sexuality mainly. All right, that's kind of as far as they get with taboo. Instead of the dark nature of humanity that you can explore, the mundanities of it, the dark exploration of stories, where it's not just about like gangs or murder. It could be about tragedy, this mundane everyday tragedy. It's kind of like when I talked about what's his name, Jonathan Carver. I think it's Carver, yeah, in Gord Lish, where they would write about this. Like Carver specifically would write about this stuff, even if his work was changed significantly by Gordon Lish. He would talk about this stuff. He would go in there and talk about how the husband would have this. He's just tired, he's tired of that day, and he's just tired of all the responsibilities on his shoulders, and explores that feeling specifically. I forget what the story was. I forget what the story was called, but that's kind of what that was one of them. And idea of the tragedy of losing someone, this losing your son, just because of some freak accident. See, that sort of stuff they do not want to talk about. They don't want to talk about this, the mundane tragedy, because those don't have oppressors. Those kinds of stories don't really have a bad guy you can point to and say, it's that guy who's wrong. That guy had to rise up against. This is why they have one story that they can tell, and that is rise up against the oppressor. And even if the story doesn't really have that, they'll make it have that, to make it so they can have the rise up against the oppressor, rise up against the empire kind of thing. But what do they do if the story isn't about how Republicans are evil or Trump is bad? What if the story is just about how a kid who trained all summer to try out for the football team and didn't make it, and then the story is about how he deals with this failure despite having to work on it and work towards it, and having that idea of, if I just work hard enough, if I just really try and train and do all this stuff, I can be part of it. But then gets rejected anyway. So he kind of has a struggle with the internal conflict of, is it worth it? Is actually working hard worth it? Because it didn't pay off, or did it? And it's going to explore that idea, but there's no bad guy there. Like if a Wokey took that the story up, it would be like the coach was racist or something, right? The main character is a black kid and the coach is racist. That's kind of how they could only understand the story that way. But normal people could understand and find interest in a story like that, where the coach is just like, sorry kid, you didn't make the cut, or you were good enough, but the like 10 other guys that got here before you were just a little bit better. And so I can only pick so many. And so while you did make the cut, you did match the criteria. It's just not enough spots for you. Like you weren't good enough to beat out these other guys. All right. So Wokies can only understand in terms of like the oppressor or the coach is racist or something. Well, everyone else can understand the idea of working hard and training to do something, and then thinking that you had everything under control, that you were at least good enough to give it a running shot, and then not succeeding. They can definitely resonate with that. So yeah, they don't really like stories in terms of what a story could possibly do, like looking into these uncomfortable situations, these personal tragedies, my everyday mundane tragedies. They can only look at things in terms of who's oppressing me, who is oppressing the main character. So, because someone has to be the main character. Let's see, chat. Until Bum says, even if they're raised up to oppressor, stories suck. They do. They don't really know how to do that because they kind of dumb it down and simplify it quite a bit and quite often. They do. So even when they do the Rise Up Against the Oppressor, it's basically this very Saturday morning cartoon. Like, just kind of compare old school, like the original Star Wars trilogy, to the new Star Wars stuff. And the original Star Wars trilogy kind of felt like they were fighting in the trenches and fighting hard for their victories. Well, the new Star Wars stuff is basically just, it kind of does feel like a Saturday morning cartoon Scooby-Doo gang taking on like this paper empire that's this basically churns out soldiers as fodder so they can have their fun for the day. Let's see. That says exactly, LD. Soft coddled, narcissistic, emotionally stunted, and fragile, morally and ethically weak, and with pathological aversion to pain, at war with life itself. It's out for revenge for being alive. More or less, yeah. It's kind of how they exist and how they write their stories. It's just we want to get revenge on somebody. This story better be. They have a certain set of people they want to get revenge against in real life, despite probably never having felt any wrong by them. They kind of have the stories that the fan fiction someone else gave them, and they got whipped up with that from their professors or whatever. The professors kind of said, "Oh, look, well, the white man has geared the whole playing field against the minority," and so they got whipped up around that. With a head full of statistics and gender studies classes and rubrics and everything, they think that they can take on the world to fight oppression. That's kind of the only thing they understand is fighting oppression, and this leaves so many more things off the table in terms of story.
Really strong if the debt is remembered across generations, but it starts breaking when they're thinking we've repaid that debt 10 times over. When the current generation doesn't feel the weight anymore. Here are the other 6. Blood loyalty. Intermarriage over generations, it survives defeat, and it breaks when blood is betrayed. There is fear loyalty. If we rebel, they'll destroy us. Works when the great house is strong, but it breaks the moment they show weakness. Then there is profit loyalty. Protect us, pay us, and we will serve you. It is transactional. It breaks when someone offers a better deal. Then there is ideological loyalty. We believe in the same cause. These are the true believers, but it breaks if you betray the cause. Then there's grudge loyalty. You killed our Lord, and I will now follow your enemy. This one is a little dangerous. It breaks when you make peace. Then there's ambition loyalty. If I serve well, I will rise. This is the eager kind of loyalty, but it breaks when they realize they will never rise. Coming back to the 3 layers of house politics, it's actually a little more nuanced. The vassal layer can be divided in sub-layers. The vassal layer structure would look like this if we zoom in. Sub-layer 1. These are the major vassals. House Seaborn, House Blackwood, and House Ironwood. Then there's sub-layer 2. The sub-vassals. These are the lesser lords.
Oh, you made like a whole map and everything. It's pretty impressive.
Sworn to the major vassals. And then there's sub-layer 3. The landed knights, the smaller houses, maybe even just a tower or some farmland. When House Stormcrown calls the banners, they're essentially calling their vassals. But it would be boring if it was this simple, right? Of course there are problems with this. We're dealing with a loyalty chain here, and these chains can break at any point. Let's do an example. House Thornhill is a sub-vassal sworn to have...
And see, also, keep in mind that... what's interesting is there's also like these the minute things in these contracts. So he says like, oh yeah, when you call the banners, you call the vassals, right? So they basically, you call your duke, you go to war as a king, right? You call for war as a king, and this means your dukes have to, lend you soldiers and stuff like that. Okay, calling the vassals. So the dukes call upon their counts and stuff to raise up armies, and so the counts kind of call upon their barons and stuff like that to raise up armies. So yeah, it really is the vassals of the vassals of the vassals of the vassals. But what's really funny though, is that you can get more than nitty gritty, because essentially each one of these vassals has an individual contract with their lord. So the duke can have, like, say he has 3 counts and he calls upon. And so all 3 of them have the same exact stuff, same exact contract. They have essentially the same amount of levies, soldiers and everything, same amount of taxes. But he can't, but do with some political pressure or something similar. The duke can be like, well, I have this pressure on you. I got this thing on you. So how about we renegotiate that pesky little contract, and you give me more levies when I call for war, which will anger the count. But like if the duke has the right leverage, you can do it. That's kind of how it goes in Crusader Kings 3. So like that happens. You can approach a vassal and go, well, I have this hook on you, and so you owe me this favor, and so I'm going to use this favor to kind of leverage you into agreeing to a new contract where you pay me more taxes every year, and that sort of thing. So you can get to that too. But like this duke has like 3 major counts under him, but one of them is angry because the count blackmailed him or pressured him into accepting a contract where he now has to pay more taxes. That might be our way in, a way to break the forces of this duke.
Seaborn, who serves House Stormcrown. Let's use the want
and see. Alex, say hello. Thanks to the super chat. They much appreciate. And see. Now, what about servant loyalty and fate? I mean, isn't that absolute?
obstacle action consequence cycle. If you don't know what it is, check out my website, thegrainbound.com. Anyway, the want is Thornhill wants to stay loyal to Seaborn. That's their oath. But Stormcrown calls for war against Ironvault. And Lord Thornhill's wife is from an Ironvault vassal house. His children are half Ironvault. So Thornhill sends troops to Seaborn, but only half, the bare minimum. And he secretly warns his wife's family. And as a consequence, Seaborn notices. And Thornhill's forces arrive late to every battle, and Seaborn suspects betrayal. After the war, Seaborn strips Thornhill of half their lands as a punishment. And therefore,
that's harsh.
Now Thornhill resents Seaborn. The loyalty is broken. Next time Seaborn calls, Thornhill won't answer. The loyalty chain can break anywhere, and these alliances can be very fragile. Do you want step-by-step guides for this stuff? I send out a weekly newsletter. It's free. Links in the description. Anyway, these vassals do not only have relationships to their liege lord, but also with each other. And it's not all rainbows and sunshine over there. Vassals of the same great house might hate each other. Why? Border disputes, historical grudges, competition for favor, ideological differences, marriage gone wrong, you name it. Let's do one example. You're the great house in here. You have 2 powerful vassals who hate each other. You need both of them. You could force peace, but they might unite against you. You could pick a side, but now you've made an enemy. You could play them against each other, but one might seek help from your enemy, or you could ignore it. But the feud might escalate and drag you in. There's no good option. The great house knows their vassals have different motivations, but here's the trap. You cannot manage all of them perfectly at once. When crisis hits, you find out which loyalties hold and which ones break. They are sometimes forced to...
It's you can either die in Oshi or live long enough for your chat to meme your childhood trauma. Very true. Very true.
Into situations where they have to make the choices which result in worsened relations with their vassals. That said, there are 3 mistakes that kill vassal politics.
All right, let's check it out.
Number 1 is assuming all vassals are loyal for the same reason. And number 2, making the brand match reality perfectly. So if all of them are honor loyal, for example, there's no tension. And 3, there's no generational shifts. Loyalty doesn't stay the same for 1,000 years. Loyalty...
Because you get new guys, even if they're the same houses, you'll get new guys at the head of them because, the head guy will die and get like a son in there or something. What really kind of throws a whole new level of conflict in all this is cadet houses and stuff like that, where they kind of like the main leader of one of the vassals might be unpopular with his brother, and his brother be like, you know what, I'm making my own house with blackjack and hookers, and I'm heading this way. It's the enemy acumen for $2. Superchats. Good morning from vacation in South Dakota. Very much enemy acumen. Very much appreciated. Very much appreciated.
Decays. You can't just buy it once and forget about it. It requires constant, expensive maintenance. And that maintenance, it's the trap that bankrupts empires. I'm going to show you exactly how that loyalty tax works in the next video, because it deserves its own deep dive. For now, let's talk about how you apply this to your world. Here's how you actually do this. There's 7 steps. Stay with me. Step 1, define your great house. What is their brand? Then, step 2, create 5 to 7 major vassals. And for each, what is their primary loyalty?
Current Demi God, this is the 5. Superchats. Enforcing peace. We better, especially if make it more beneficial and convenient to follow the tree than to break it. Yeah, so that'll give us tension, because the idea is we have to honor our word, which would preserve the peace, but there's so much tension there. Like, the idea would be to press so much pressure and tension onto that promise that you kind of left wondering, will it break? And at what point will they decide to say, let's get rid of that? Will we have to break our word and go in and cause war again? So beneficial, convenient to follow the tree than to break it. Absolutely. It's pretty cool stuff. Basically, you kind of want to note what their goals are. And then following that up, you kind of want to put obstacles there. Like, what's keeping them from either attaining or maintaining the goal?
Type. And why? Step 3, add sub-vassals. Give 2 to 3 of your major vassals their own vassals for now. And step 4, create rival pairs. Which 2 vassals hate each other and why? Step 5, add cross connections. Marriages, debts, spies, you name it. Step 6, create a crisis. Great house calls for war, for example. Who answers? Who hesitates? Who betrays? And step 7, follow the cascade. One betrayal triggers another. The web strains and some threads break. 7 steps and your politics are now alive and thriving. You're not building governments anymore. You are building conflict engines. I've given you the tools. Go build something.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah, basically, kind of. But I think what it boils down to is you want to give your players like their own motivations, and then you want to put them at odds, possibly, or they're not the same motivation. Anyway, chat. Anyway, fantastic. So here we go. Where is it? Where is the one I was looking for? Okay. Here we go. You know what? This is a really long video, so let's do this one first. I found a video that Brandon Sanderson kind of put out just a few days ago, at least like 2 weeks ago, but relatively new. And he's talking about writing modern epic fantasy. So Brandon Sanderson is coming under fire recently by possibly going a little bit woke, but we'll see what you have to say. Let's see what he has to say. Let's see what you think about it, chat. When he goes into writing modern epic fantasy.
So, welcome to the Sanderfac. This is where I answer your questions, things that people ask me fairly often. And one that I get now and then is, why are there no elves or dwarves in your books, Brandon? I got this one way more earlier in my career. When I was first starting to publish, we were still pretty deeply in Tolkien's shadow.
Let's see. Who was the LD to give him a follow with great ideas? It's called The Grainbound. The Grainbound.
And Harry Potter just come out, which used some of the kind of...
Hello to you, Golden Reaper. This too says, what's the cringe? What's the cringe? Hello to you, Golden Reaper. We're just going over some fantasy elements. We began with the very interesting development that Wizards of the Coast seems to be under new management and has realized it has messed up quite a bit and seems to be trying to extend an olive branch, although I don't really know what the olive branch kind of is. It's kind of vague, but they kind of expressed a need or desire to get back all those players, gamers, and customers that they have been actively chasing off for years, which is interesting and hilarious at the same time. Then we went over some cool aspects of political intrigue within fantasy worlds, and now we have a kind of a relatively new video of Brandon Sanderson going over what does it mean to be writing modern epic fantasy. One of the things that entails is not actually writing anything like elves and things in there. So let's check it out.
Classical fantasy.
And of course, what do you think, chat? of course, it's going to be along the lines of rebellion against Tolkien. Because I can't really blame Brandon Sanderson for that, because as a professor of mine once said in college, is there is always an era, like a specific defining era, and you could say Tolkien was one of those. In fact, his influences could still be seen today, of course. But the thing is, when there is an established era, like the Tolkien era, there will then follow a time where writers and creators will be like rebelling against the previous era, right? And then it flows. That's your transition, or at least supposed to be your transition time, until it flows into a new era. Then the cycle kind of starts all over again. So the idea here is that they will rise an era, and then as the era begins to wane, the new crop of creative people will come to age, and they will rebel against the previous era by mocking it or satirizing it or just trying to answer it. So it's kind of how you get your George R. R. Martins and your Brandon Sandersons. Let's see. Leif Fessett says that Brandon Sanderson has listened too much to squeaky wheels in his audience, and his quality of storytelling has fallen off. I never read any of his stuff, so I'm not really sure how the quality has was or has become, but I have heard that he has changed things along the lines of political correctness and wokeness. Like, he has been influenced by wokeness too much, as far as I've heard. Now, I don't really know. I haven't read the stories, but as far as I've heard, that seems to be the case. Or so I've heard. He's not a writer I'm interested in, so it's whatever. I haven't read any of his stuff because I'm not really into that level of fantasy, really. But I do know Shad likes him, and so a lot of people like him. But I also have heard from these people that it's he has gone more woke and politically correct, and it has made his writing quality suffer. I have heard that as well.
Races, giants, dragons, elves, things like this. And I remember writing an essay for my school magazine called Kill the Elves in the late 90s.
Yeah, here comes his reasoning. Ready?
Because during that time, I was really getting tired of the Tolkien-esque.
See? Tolkien was an era, and then a lot of people after that will start to rebel against that era. Now, there's nothing wrong with this, or there's nothing wrong with that. It's just when everyone gets obsessed with this sort of thing that it becomes an issue, where they become so close-minded towards everything that's outside of this rebellious surge of creativity. Okay, but here's the thing, though. Again, that Game of Thrones was its own era, and what's happening now, we're satirizing it, we're rebelling against it, right? We're trying to answer it again. So yeah, the cycle repeats itself. So we had the era of the great hero, we have the era of the anti-hero and morally gray guy, and then now we're coming back into the era of the hero again, and everyone is kind of rebelling against this morally gray nonsense, this morally gray I guess you could say demand that everyone do, right? Because during the Game of Thrones era, everyone has to be morally gray. We had to have ensemble casts, things like that. So, but things are changing now. That era seems to be over or dying.
World building. Not that there weren't great books that did it. I mean, I'm very fond of Sword of Shannara. I'm very fond of Thomas Covenant the Unbeliever, which is a very Tolkien-inspired sort of thing. There were just a lot of them back then. Even you can look at some Tad Williams as being very Tolkien inspired. These are all the great fantasy epics from the 80s and early 90s. Even I would say Robert Jordan started very much in that sort of Tolkien-esque sort of air. He didn't really have the elves and the dwarves, but he did do the sort of quest fantasy. If you read Eye of the World, you'd be like, wow, I can really see the Tolkien influences here. The Myrddraal feel an awful lot like the Black Riders that Frodo is hiding from in the Lord of the Rings. And so I, as a young writer, I actually wrote an essay on my website. They got me in a lot of trouble early on, where I talked about how Tolkien ruined fantasy.
Here it is.
Which was very clickbaity in the days before we understood clickbait. It was extra clickbaity because if you read it, the answer was Tolkien was so good at what he did that we all ended up copying him for a long time. He didn't actually ruin fantasy. That was just a clickbait.
That is the truth, though. He was so defining. Like Lord of the Rings, such a defining work, even aside from the morals and the ethics and the heroism. It's such a defining work in terms of the world that it made. That we have been kind of being not only inspired, but what the world that Tolkien made has become the standard fantasy setting. All right, every setting has been dwarves, elves, all that stuff. Basically, just the world of Tolkien. It's kind of with another paint job. Although, it's kind of what makes some isekai, some anime fantasy a little bit refreshing, since they add in different things and kind of try to make it a little bit different. But even they still are influenced by Tolkien. Okay, it is such profound influence that it kind of just changed fantasy globally. It was kind of crazy, but we want to kind of get away from that, I guess. People want to explore different things, different ideas. But here's the other interesting thing is, going back to D&D, Gary Gygax. Now, people say that Gary Gygax copied Lord of the Rings. Okay, yeah, who didn't? But he didn't copy it entirely. So what Gary Gygax did was copy Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and stuff like that, paint job wise. So he has elves, dwarves, and humans and all that stuff. However, the stories, the way that the stories and the adventures of D&D were set up, it's not Lord of the Rings. It's Conan. It's sword and sorcery, essentially. Because according to what I've read, Gary Gygax liked the world of Tolkien, but did not like the story of Tolkien. He found it very boring, actually. So it definitely was not helpful to what he had in mind. So what Gary Gygax preferred over Tolkien was Conan the Barbarian. And it didn't really mention the ethics, like, oh, I like it because he's morally great. It's more along the lines of the fact that every story is Conan doing something crazy. He's fighting, he's like exploring some dungeon, fighting some monsters, basically just the backbone of a D&D adventure. So Gary Gygax found Lord of the Rings very boring, but he did like the world. But basically he combined Lord of the Rings aesthetics with Conan style adventures. And that's boom, D&D. Let's see. You should slay elves. Thank you much, Alexander Tuesday. You should slay elves and lay them if you can. Alexander Digital Tuesday, dang, autocorrect should. Thank you much, Alexander. Appreciate it. Let's see. All right. Leif says, okay, metaphorical rifle has been sent down. Still eyeballing the torch and the pitchfork. Yeah, check it out.
Title. But regardless, as I was kind of deciding what I was going to do to make my career, like what did I want to be the hallmarks of what a Sanderson book is? I wanted to be of that generation that was stepping more outside of Tolkien.
And to be fair, that is a good thing for a writer to do. Like this, as we've complained endlessly with isekai from Japan, right? With anime, is that it's all kind of the same. It's all becoming so samey. That there's some imagination there, but it's all kind of generic. The main character is like this young boy with the generic black hair, OP skill ability, things like that. He's very very righteous heart, usually some passion there, and then is just a good person, and everything this works out. Kinda gets his own harem and everything. So it's usually how it goes. It's just different world, maybe different harem, members, different OP power, but it kind of has the same formula. And people are kind of yearning for the Japanese anime isekai people to make different stories, to step outside of the box. Now, people might say, well, how about does it have to be isekai? No, absolutely not. But the thing is, isekai is still a popular genre for a reason, right? He was like isekai for a reason. It's really fun the idea of you can be swept off into the world where you actually have a new adventure where your hobbies matter, where your interests matter. You make new friends. It's pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool idea. So I don't think isekai needs to end. I just think they need to put a little more emphasis in imagination and try to try something new. So the idea that Brandon Sanderson is pushing forward of like I want to step out of the Tolkien box is not a bad idea. It's not a hostile idea. It's a creative's reaction. Like it's a reflex that a creative person will have, where everything is normal over here, but by that token, I want to try something else. I want to try something new, something different that's not part of this new standard fantasy setting. Again, it's when we get to the pretentiousness and the obsession with this. Like, oh, we must rebel against Tolkien because he's an old white dude. Not really the same as everything. We got to rebel against this idea that Tolkien set up because I'm not ethically opposed, but the tropes and everything has become so standard. I want to stretch out and see if we can do something else with it. That's the good stuff. That's a good motivation. The bad motivation is Tolkien was an old white man. Not very good at all. That's about hate. All right. As opposed to, I want to explore different tropes and stuff, which is about love and passion for your craft. Very, very different. Mr. Vat says, I kind of turned my fantasy setting into a reverse Tolkien, where the humans are the remnant descendants of great civilization and the elves are the rising power based on the Roman Empire. Nice. Very based. Very based. It's going to catch us. Funny you should mention Isekai like that, for I have 2 Isekai announcements for Weebly tomorrow. Interesting. We'll check it out indeed. Also, I guess we can talk more about Agame ga Kill, because I'll be watching more of that, hopefully today. It's the Vassal says Tolkien is the forerunner of modern fantasy, living through Gygax, D&D, and influence Wheel of Time and Game of Thrones, no matter how Martin denies it. Yeah, because the thing is, Martin has I think he claimed that a lot of his writing, at least for Game of Thrones, was in response to Tolkien. So even though he was trying to respond to Tolkien, and, as a counter argument, it still means he was inspired by Tolkien. So there it is. Anyway,
Shadow. I often talk about him as Grandpa Tolkien. That's because I kind of see a large generation of writers who did a lot of cool things with some Tolkien-esque inspirations. I mean, Robert Jordan's one of my favorite writers ever, and it started in a very Tolkien-esque sort of mode. But then I saw myself as the generation who grew up reading those people. I bounced off Tolkien the first time I tried to read Lord of the Rings when I was a kid. It was too dense for me. I have since read and appreciated it. In fact, as I'm recording this in late 2025, I'm rereading Tolkien right now, doing the audiobooks that Andy Serkis reads. Highly recommend them. They're wonderful. But in the late 90s, I'm like, can't we get away from this? Fantasy should be the most imaginative genre. It's the genre where you can do anything. As soon as you start doing,
that's the disappointment of it all, including was happening with anime isekai. That fantasy should be very imaginative. You could do anything. You could do anything in fantasy, right? There's so many possibilities, but people are kind of stuck in the one standard fantasy setting, and then over here in anime land, they're kind of just stuck in video game world, levels, Demon King, isekai protagonist with OP power, and big boobed harem elf girls. That's about it. And of course he's really cool and kind hearted, and everything just works out for him, and all that stuff. So let's see here. Martin also claimed he'd finish Winds of Winter. Yeah, he also said that too. Which is looking less and less likely every day. Past the other 10 super chats, I can understand why some people avoid elves and other certain races. There are some stories that are considered fantasy because they are characters and are not humans. Exactly. Let's see here. They much Pastiana. Okay, and speaking of elves, though, on that topic, though, I remember that era. I really liked that era of Lord of the Rings, where where Lord of the Rings was big. He had the movies coming out. Everyone's obsessing with Tolkien and the story of Frodo and Sam and how cool Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas were. It was cool. I bought the games and everything. But also during that era, of course, a lot of writers, a lot of fledgling writers were obsessed with writing their own fantasy, and of course they got obsessed with elves. Everyone got obsessed with elves. Everyone was like, here's like so many elves, different kind of elves, like water elves and sky elves and everything. There's so many varieties of elves. So that was a big thing. Elves became a gigantic phenomenon almost in and of themselves because of how Tolkien wrote them. It was very interesting. But yeah, I think that's why that's probably one of the big reasons why Brandon Sanderson and people like him started to rebel against not only Tolkien tropes, but elves in particular. Pretty sure that's how it went. There are some stories that are even considered fantasy because they are characters and not humans. That'd be kind of a cool challenge, right? Try to make a fantasy world where you make you can have humans. You get one buy-in, humans, right? What if this is a challenge, chat? What if this is a challenge? You want to see? You don't have to write up anything, but just give me an idea for maybe, or give me what ideas you come up with. Maybe for like Monday. We'll see Monday. All right. Doesn't have to be very detailed. This kind of this. Send me your idea. Just send it to me in a chat or whatever on Monday. But try to make you get one buy-in of a standard race. You know, it could. I'm guessing you pick human, but it could really be like elves or dwarves or something like that. One buy-in for a race that's standard comes easy to understand because we all know what it is. But then you have to do like 3 other races that are completely made up by you. Like they can't be elves, they can't be dwarves. All right, they can't be variations of elves or dwarves or anything like that. And no D&D owned races like tieflings, so that sort of thing. So that'd be kind of a cool writing challenge. Make a fantasy where sure you might have humans or whatever, but the other races are completely made up by you. It can be done. It takes a little imagination, a little bit of extra effort. It's just kind of fun to play with elves and dwarves and things because people kind of know those already. And see, Normal Man, this is the $5 super chat, says isekai title of the day, that time I gave a giant a back scratch and now I'm king of the underworld. I don't know how that would work. Like how does that lead? How does a back scratch lead to you becoming king? That's pretty intriguing. And see, and Jester King, thanks to the $5 super chat. Thank you very, very much. So this one is quite cool when you dive into his work outside of author works. Then he's also a fellow Cornhusker. Though the Way of Kings isn't for me. Pretty cool. Already done. Very fantastic. Very cool. Let me know on Monday. Hutzelbaum and Megalthon says shotguns accepted. Like no elves whatsoever. You can't have any elves in this challenge unless you kind of use elves as the buy-in. But then you can't have humans. So it'd be too bad. And see, Eska Stelmare says no one is rebelling against Tolkien. They're rebelling against the post Del Rey standard hero formula. I guess so. I mean, I guess that could be the issue. But the kind of people kind of like Brendan Sanderson said and Martin said, they're rebelling against Tolkien's philosophies. I guess the standard setting that he has, things like that. Megathon says thanks for that. Says you should add a Discord channel for the challenge LD so they can all be in one place. That's a pretty cool idea. If I can remember, I'll do that today. Yeah, let's do it in Creative Corner. You do it in Creative Corner if you want to. Then that we'll have that. It's kind of a Creative Corner style discussion. So I think it's pretty cool. Alex Halo, there's the $5 here, which says Freerin is the best elf. She also has an obsession with being inside of mimics, though. Definitely not looking for grimoires. Yeah, definitely not looking for grimoires. But even Freerin has like the standard standard races. Humans, elves. You got demons, which are kind of like a standard race now, right? They've always have been. Like even we had like devil-looking things, even in Tolkien stuff. But yeah, like standard human, and then you get like at least three other races that are, kind of make sense within the world. They have their own kind of established culture, things of that nature. Hey, pretty cool.
Doing weird stuff. You become fantasy and you're ours. And so I thought, well, I want to have a hallmark of my writing be that it's more human focused than fantastical creatures focused. And if I'm going to be doing fantastical creatures, I want.
So kind of like Wizard of Oz. Now, here's the thing. Franco Baum, right? Franco Baum. Is it L? Hold on. Is his middle initial L? I can't remember. Frank L. Baum. Yes, it is L. I knew it. I thought I got it right. So Franco Baum wrote Wizard of Oz, and he gave himself a similar challenge to this. Like he wanted to make a fantasy without the standard issue crap. Like he also was kind of rebelling against Tolkien a little bit, right? And see, rules for writing Wizard of Oz. I forgot exactly what the rules were exactly, But this kind of where that's why his fantasy feels so interesting. Let's see. He wanted to modernize things. I remember that being the case. But he had some like restrictions for his writing when he went into Wizard of Oz. That's why there's like no elves and stuff like that in there either. So, but you do have like scarecrows and talking lions and things. And see, he predated Tolkien, but it's kind of like he was. The thing is, he was going over. I guess it was fairy tales then. He was going over fairy tales, and he wanted to change things to modernize the modern day fairy tale. The modern day fairy tale. So he kind of cut out. I think genies was one of the things that he wanted to cut out. I think genies is one of them, and he wanted. I can't remember exactly what else he was cutting out, but I know genies was one of the things he didn't want to have in there. Let's see, but yeah, he kind of reforged everything to modernize the fairy tale, to modernize the main story, so that it still felt fantastical without. I think it's the fairy tale tropes. The fairy tale tropes. So from long time, the Brothers Grimm stuff. He wanted to get it. I think that's what he wanted to get away from. But yeah, so he kind of gave himself a similar challenge. So this challenge is kind of like, okay, here's your mainstay standard fantasy race. We're going to see what's human, and then we're going to go ahead and try to make 3 of your own races you come up with by yourself. Right? That's kind of how it goes. Where L. Frank Baum was like, you know what? I'm going to rebel against this old school stuff of. In this case, I think it was old school fairy tales, so he kind of cut out genies and things like that, and kind of emphasized other elements. I forgot. Man, I wish I could forget. I could remember exactly what the rules were. He used with Wizard of Oz. It's been so long since I read all that stuff. It's about how he wrote it and what his criteria was, but it was a cool challenge. I thought it was pretty interesting, an attempt to modernize things. But yeah, it's Wizard of Oz, the World of Oz, it is a fantasy series, and it's and of course the idea is that it was all a dream from the movie Wizard of Oz. In the books, it really wasn't. In the books, it really is like a real place. Kind of, it's a real place. It's Intrigue says, I like the Kroll world, a neat blend of sci-fi fit and fantasy. I haven't read much Kroll. I read a little bit of Kroll, not much of it. But yeah, it's Kroll of Atlantis, I'm pretty sure, right? Leans heavily on some classic ideas, but still feels like its own place. Yeah, John Carter of Mars, and which was written by, what's his name? It's John Carter of Mars was I didn't he write Tarzan? I'm pretty sure he wrote Tarzan. There's a whole story about this guy who was Burroughs. That's what it was. I just popped in my mind. I remember this whole story told by Patrick Rothfuss about how this guy, he was tutoring this guy who was very weird, but he was really, 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 really into Burroughs. Let's see here. I got this. By the way, chat. We are just a little over the halfway mark to Pillarmans. Doing pretty good. Chat. Doing pretty good. But anyway. Let's see here. All right. Everything. I had to stall for time because my internet just froze. Let's see. All right. Yeah, Edgar Rice Burroughs. Just double checking on that one too. But Edgar Rice Burroughs, that was the author, and that the student, the guy that Patrick Rothfuss was tutoring was really into Burroughs and his style of writing. And he's like, whoa, that's kind of weird. Like he was really obsessed with him. It's kind of interesting. Let's see. Leif Fessett says, that reminds me of Labyrinth and Dark Crystal. Dark Crystal, yes. Labyrinth is my favorites. Not only was Labyrinth my favorites, I learned how to contact juggle because of that movie, but Labyrinth is really good. It's a really good story, especially for girls. I told Shad this, and he showed his daughters the movie, and he liked it and everything. I put on a similar level of goodness in terms of ethical messaging for girls with K-pop Demon Hunters, which was surprising to me. I wouldn't think that I would be suggesting K-pop Demon Hunters is good, but it actually is really good. It actually is a good story for girls. We have so few of those today because a lot of the stuff made for girls is about empowerment and how they're awesome and how they should reject men and hate on men and everything and hate their dads and stuff. So when it comes to really good messaging for girls, it's Labyrinth the K-pop Demon Hunters, because yeah, it's about like in Labyrinth, it's about this powerful, handsome goblin king who becomes obsessed with Sarah. But her trials and tribulations revolve around rejecting him, despite the fact that Marnie society would be like, "You go, girl, you get that Goblin King. Like, who cares about your little brother?" Right? They would easily say, "Forget your little brother, go with the Goblin King, get your bag, girl, get your bag, queen," and she would actually become a queen, literally, and the queen of goblins. So, but the thing is, it's the women encounter the same problems as men, just from the other side, right? So where men are often kind of challenged with the succubus, the temptress, as their way off to evil, then they have to learn to reject this. Women have the same thing, but it's the incubus, it's the seductor, the evil guy who is very tantalizing and very, very tempting, but is ultimately a bad idea. Ultimately a bad idea. And that's kind of what Jareth embodies, is the seductor, the incubus, who is very toxic as a person, but he just love bombs her and will do all this stuff, and he'll say, "Hey, do what I say or I'll hurt you or I'll punish you." That's kind of what he uses as his way to get Sarah to be with him. Like, okay, I kidnapped your little brother. You want him back? Come meet me in the labyrinth. Okay, you want to you don't want to be my queen? Fine, then you're going to have to work your way up here, all that stuff. So basically, he wanted to push her to give up in order for her to surrender and become his queen. That's kind of how it goes. But anyway, same thing with Kiba Demon Hunters, where she does encounter a literal demon who wants to seduce her, and it almost works. However, she does ultimately reject this idea because she finds out who he really is, and he's a demon. And although they do kind of fall in love, and yeah, they have a whole song about it, she does learn that these people are bad for a reason. They're demons for a reason. They're not misunderstood. They're not victims. Even the guy that she is in love with did horrible things, and that's why he's a demon. So that it really is the fact that they are guilty. And so she does kind of reject this idea, and then he has to work for his redemption. It's not about her falling for him despite him being a demon. It's she knows that, okay, this guy's a demon. I can't really, this is too much trouble. This is a no-go. She was falling in love with him when she thought he was a victim, but now that she knows he's an actual demon and is evil, it's a little bit tougher. And so he actually has to work to redeem himself. And then she chooses her friends and her fans over this dude who's a demon, which is good messaging. These girls should reject the temptations of the incubus, just like men are told to reject the temptations of the succubus. It's the same. Although to modern society is you're just afraid that you can't handle a big strong woman or whatever, and that women are not demonized or I say demonized. Women are not chastised for going along with the incubus. So that, and it's the opposite. They're praised for falling for the incubus's charms, which is very dangerous. And what I mean by that is, as we went over in a video actually produced by a woman who notices stuff, that a lot of modern day media, well, not even modern day, a lot of media in general in America is, romanticizes and praises a woman cheating on her spouse, cheating on her husband. So not only are a lot of media for made for girls and women not saying, warning against the dangers of falling for the incubus, they are praising them for cheating on their husbands, cheating on their boyfriends, and embracing the incubus and going with that toxic emotionally driven relationship. It's not supposed to be easy to say no to. It's supposed to be very tantalizing. With women, it's the whole emotional volatility of the connection. And that's what makes it so interesting and juicy and dramatic. With men, it's simple lust. It's just like, oh, it's a really, really attractive woman who's ready to give me everything I want for very, very little effort. And And that's it. Like it'd be very interesting if we had media that romanticized falling for the succubus the same way they romanticized a woman falling for the incubus. That'd be very strange. That'd be interesting to see how the reaction would be. But that's how it goes. Anyway. Normal man, this is a $20 super chat. Thank you very, very much. Let me see here. All right. There we go. Let's see. I want to share my idea of humanoids that take the form of elderly called geriatrics. They are long-lived and greatly interested in magic. They commonly become wizards and priests. The elderly form is defense mechanisms, like to make them seem like they're weaker or a non-threat. It's like, oh, they're old, so they're not going to be that much of a threat, I believe. Is that what you're getting at? But thank you very much, normal man. Appreciate it. And this puts us a mere $32 away. $32 away from Pillarman. Thank you very much, everyone. Let's see here. Alex Halo says, hold on. Yeah, here we go. Alex Halo things too says fate has every race, even Lovecraftian monsters. Yeah, fate has everything in there. Like just without question, has everything in there. Insane. I found Elric kind of boring, maybe nihilistic. Dark just isn't my thing. I found the same barrier, the Game of Thrones and American Gods. Yeah, I do like dark stories every once in a while, but when it gets too dark without any sort of like reward, it does fall into that too dark didn't care territory, where it's such a common. It is a respectable thing. It is a thing that happens with readers that if it's too dark and too bleak and especially for way too long with no reward or uplifting side, people will just lose interest. Like I'm not here for misery porn. All right, I want to see a hero overcome bad guys. Now, there's nothing wrong with having this dark storyline where you take them really deep into dark territories and losses and everything. It's kind of what Lord of the Rings does. Lord of the Rings brings our heroes on the brink of annihilation, but it's just that there is a kind of a bottom, and then they start going back up again. And we can see Aragorn lead the way against the forces of Mordor. We see Frodo and Sam on climbing up Mount Doom. They're almost there. Right? We start rising up towards the hope. Sure, we get some conflicts along the way, but eventually we can see the oncoming victory, and we're trying to let's go, come on, get there, go Frodo, and that's better, I think. But with these stories are just kind of like so focused on being dark, it's just dark, bad stuff happening with no real upside, no real reward, no balancing of evil versus dark, none of that stuff. So Berserk brings its characters into its annihilation. Yeah, Berserk does kind of both. It gives you it has a lot of dark and dour things, but also we get just enough good stuff to keep us interested. Because man, the Golden Age arc is peak. That was really, really good. The Golden Age arc, because it does have a lot of ebbs and flows, some good stuff, some bad stuff. It gives you some victories with guts, and you get to see why exactly he's so awesome. And he gets why he made a name for himself. And while he grows, he gets a love interest. He earns the love of Casca. Things like that. He's known for he killed 100 men. I think it's 100 men, all by himself. He did all these great things. His great friendship with Griffith. They're rising to the top. Griffith is on his way to becoming a full-fledged lord and all that stuff. Maybe he might even marry a princess. Everything's looking to be great. And then we get a big fall. And then it kind of, despite its dark reputation, it does have an ebb and flow to it that keeps us interested. Now, some people might find it way too dark, and that's perfectly fine. But to those who can handle that level of darkness or kind of find it interesting, that level of struggle and that level of depravity, there are some rewards for you to hang on to. Right? There are some rewards in Berserk where good things do happen. Yeah, it does have brightness in there. And even Puck is in there to give you a little bit of levity every once in a while to keep the story from becoming too bleak, because they probably knew what would happen. Let's see. You can't faux mop a broke chat to fear missing out on filament. Let's see. Thank you much, everyone. Let's see here. I haven't read a lot of Elric. I've started reading the comics of Elric of Melniboné. It's interesting. I think the original stories might be better, though. I'll have to check it out.
to try and come up with my own. I want to have some new fantasy races that don't just feel like elves with another name, or dwarves with another name, or things like that. And turns out this is actually really hard to do. Coming up with something that has the weight and awesomeness of a dragon that isn't a dragon is very difficult. And I ended up just saying, I like dragons, I'm putting dragons in. So that's the one that I decided to bend on eventually, because I mean, dragons
are awesome. You can't really bend on the dragons. The dragons are really cool. If you can get dragons in your story, in your fantasy story, do it.
Right. But as I was developing the worlds, this is why you'll see that as I began, for instance, the first book in the Cosmere being Elantris, it's very human focused. The fantasy race that's in there is the Seons. And I built this idea of these little bits of pieces of the various shards that would have different interactions with the people based on where they were, more along the lines of kind of classical fae. Is where kind of the Seons and the Spren and all the different various incarnations that you'll find across the Cosmere. And I wanted to have them feel a little more alien, yet also delve into that idea that fantasy is very good at, that even if something feels very alien at first, people are people and they will feel like people. And that's a interesting balance to try to walk, where you want them to be empathetic and sympathetic, and you want readers to be like, oh, as odd as this floating ball of light is, as a different sort of alien species, this floating ball of light is indeed a person and has passions, and that I can understand, even if what they're passionate about is different from what I might be passionate about, the existence of passion connects us. And so that was my focus in those early books, was coming up with something that felt a little different. Now, the kind of corollary to the story is, after I got published, I started to think, why am I so down on what people love to do? Right? Like, I don't want to be the person that is like, hey, stop having fun. There's that thing.
Why are you doing elves again? And that's the thing. That's kind of what I mentioned earlier. How, like, if you want to go into a book series, you want to write a specific genre of story, it's not just about knowing the generic, like the general terms of it. Like, okay, fantasy, it's about knights and stuff, right? It's about knowing what the readers kind of expect in a fantasy story. Even if you don't intend to follow those tropes, it's good to know, so you kind of like boil down what they're really looking for. Let's see. Enemy Acumen was the finest protecting my. Let's see. Enemy Acumen says, heading out from Roosevelt Inn, going to Devil's Tower, Rough Lock Falls, Spearfish Falls, and we will mess around in Deadwood. Fantastic. Sounds like a good plan to me. Have fun, Enemy Acumen. Very cool.
Famous meme. Stop enjoying things. If people want to write about elves and dwarves, is there anything wrong with that if they enjoy it? And I realized I was being a bit snobbish. So I kind of look back on that Kill the Elves essay, which just talks about, hey, let's move on from Tolkien's races, with a measure of embarrassment now. This started in the early or the late 2000s, where I said, you know what? Who cares? If someone wants to write about that and they write a good book, I'm going to enjoy that book, even if it is doing something new with some of these classic races as opposed to going in a different direction. And I came around kind of full circle to write what you love. What I love is experimenting with what a fantasy book can be and the boundaries of what magic can do and what we call magic, what we call science. I like pushing that extent of world building. Other people like saying, hey, we've got this great grand tradition of these fantasy races from real mythology and lore that we get to play with in our fantasy books and approach them from new directions and say new things. That's equally valid, and people write lots of awesome books using that. So
it's getting me additional $5. Also, can you keep asking me to hit the like button? I always do, then say no to the question. Fantastic. I always do, then say no to answer the question. Well, I will then. Can you keep asking me to hit the like button? Certainly will. Wish granted.
Come around to where it's like, you know what, Brandon, even you put dragons in your books. So I no longer feel like we need to kill the elves or anything like that. I feel like
Parker says, reminds me of the spoof RPG system that specifically say that it didn't have orcs. No orcs allowed. You gotta have orcs. The orcs are a lot of fun. They're a really cool bad guy race. The Valley Facet says, this is Brandon Sanderson. He finished the Wheel of Time series. It's currently lauded as the king of prose fiction right now. He's an acquired taste and very steep learning curve. I think he's he's a very verbose writer. His books are extra thick. Jackson Bowie says Sanderson is a fantastic writer, but he's pretty bad at critiquing movie writing. He thinks Arcane season 2 is a 10 out of 10. I gotta see Arcane season 2. I didn't watch it, so I don't know how bad it got. I gotta check it out. It's funny that similar disciplines don't necessarily cross over. Yeah, that is so interesting though, because it's you think that okay, novel writer, he could probably write a comic, right? No, it's very different actually, because the first time I wrote a comic, like, oh man, there's so much more stuff. It's so different than writing prose, because writing comic, like you have to okay, I'm still learning. But it's like, okay, I got to leave room for the art. I can't have too much on here. And each page has to flow to a certain point. Like it has to have a meaning in the page. Like there has a purpose. Like what does this page tell us? How does this page advance the story? And then you have to keep in mind all the things that are going to be in each panel, which needs to be in each panel, where they are. Make sure that the continuity remains the same. Things like that, like hiding things in the background that should be in the background. It's tough. Like it's a whole different skill set writing a comic than it is to even write a novel. It's tough. I imagine a same sort of leap in skill set is required to even make a movie or have direct a film or a show or something like that. So yeah, it's kind of crazy in that way.
Write your book, read your book, read what you love, write what you love. And there's room to do new things even still, all these years later, with some of these ideas that Tolkien approached back in the 50s and 60s.
Awesome chat. Very cool. All right, well, there's a little rundown there with Brendan Sanderson and how he used to hate elves, but it's like, you know what, I was being a big snob, probably like the best idea. Just do what you want, as long as you're happy writing what you're writing. But it's just the idea of, okay, here's a standard fantasy. I want to rebel against that. I want to see if I can do something different by consciously going against all those things, trying to not to use the standard fantasy setting with that Tolkien kind of forged in the Forges of Mount Doom. And here we go, chat. Thomas Boyle says, actually, though, don't hurt yourself by watching Arcane Season. Is it really that bad? Is it really that bad? Because everyone says Arcane Season 1 was like a peak 10 out of 10. So how far did it fall when it went to the second season? It must have been pretty bad. Book 11 says it's hard to come up with something new when you have stuff like Monster Girl Encyclopedia. This stuff is not necessarily new, but like the things from the standard fantasy setting, don't use those, right? Don't use those. You can even use things from other settings, like you can use Lami or something like that. But give them like a culture and like why they're a race and everything, not just like a random monster or something. So, yeah, the challenge would be more like standard fantasy, like D&D stuff. Don't use that. So you can flesh it out. Let's see. Yeah, she's good. I like her stuff. How modern schools make terrible writers. So go check this out.
I don't know how many of you have made a trip to your local bookstore anytime in the last decade, but if you have, then you've probably noticed that writing isn't really what it used to be. What does that mean, you ask? To be clear, what I'm talking about here is prose itself, not the content of the books, not the stories that they're telling, but the prose, the language with which the story is being told, clarity, imagery, flow, the command the writer has of the English language, and so on. Bad prose in modern books takes many forms. The writing itself can be horrendous, but even when it's not, even when the writing isn't actively punching you in the face every other sentence, it all still just kind of reads the same, like the same person wrote it all. If you've ever received a...
By the way, chat, we're just $20 away from Pillarman, just $20 away. Thank you very much, chat. Appreciate all your generosity.
Work email sprinkled with emojis, then you might have found yourself scratching your head. Or maybe not. Maybe such occurrences are so commonplace now that you barely notice them. I personally have seen numerous articles online explaining the professional number of emojis one may use in work emails, so maybe I'm just behind the curve. If you own a smartphone, chances are you've got a Grammarly keyboard or some other AI typing assistant that automatically double checks your grammar and your wording and suggests alterations. If you've spent any time in contact with the digital world, then chances are you've come across blocks of text that were absolutely written by someone leaning hard on their AI writing assistant, which admittedly isn't quite the same as using AI to write, but it nevertheless presents the same lack of humanity and lack of clarity. And also, more to the point, it presents the same core problem. Call me a Luddite, call me old-fashioned, call me whatever you like, but this strange reliance on machine aid in basic writing is very, very worrying. Not just because we are now apparently living in a world where books written to varying degrees with AI assistants are winning major prestigious literary awards, but mainly because this over-reliance on technology actually indicates that some kind of deficit already existed, which created a need for these artificial aids. That's something I want to make very clear. AI writing is absolutely killing aspiring writers' ability to put together stories and prose on their own. But there's a reason people immediately found AI.
It is true because I mean, if you go into novel writing, putting together prose and developing your own style of syntax is basically just a big portion of your writer's voice. It's pretty intimidating. It's pretty tough because it's one thing to just tell you what the story is about. That's pretty easy. But when you actually have to write the story and how things flow and give you imagery and where to go with the prose and the sentences and the paragraph and how to lead up to everything all the way to the end of the chapter, that's pretty tough. That's pretty tough because you're not just telling people, you're weaving a story that you can see in the mind's eye.
Assistant so tempting and appealing. The problem with writing already existed. AI just offered an artificial solution. There's a reason people are leaning so hard on their Grammarly keyboards. There's a reason people go straight to ChatGPT when they want to write a novel or a poem or a sweet text to the girlfriend. Okay, there are a lot of reasons, but a big, huge commonality in all these reasons is this. People no longer know how to write. And even when they try, even when we give them awards for doing so well, arguably, they cannot write well. Not anymore. Writing well is a dying art. My question is, why?
ChatGPT. It's very intimidating, and if we're coming into if we're talking about new up and coming aspiring authors, this is the era where everyone is afraid to be authentic. Okay, people will express things in terms of irony. They'll express things in terms of jokes and things, because if they give you something real, that's a vulnerability. For example, on one hand, you could not on one hand, but one reasoning might be that oh, you like that? Well, you're not as cultured as I thought you were, or that you're not as intelligent as I thought you were, because you like how could an intelligent person like this, that sort of thing. And also, if you talk about movies and you review movies and things like that, and then you go it's really easy to pump yourself up or depict yourself as intellectual or cultured, have a fine palate when you're hating on things, because obviously what you like must be like pristine and legendary, but not exactly true. That's kind of why it's so important to have an objective critique, an objective criteria for critique, because it's not about your personal taste. It's about how each movie and story kind of line up against your objective rubric. And so that's how that's supposed to go. Just objective review, objective critique. Okay. So I use the hero's journey. That's my thing. I keep telling everyone in every video, that's kind of what I compare things to. And I'm a big follower of the hero's journey. Not every story has to follow the hero's journey completely, but every story is usually on some spectrum of the wheel, right? Of somewhere. Like John Wick is obviously a guy, for example, who has completed his training and all that stuff, and is now the master coming back into play. So, that's kind of where that's supposed to go. So the thing is, when the Gen Z, the modern day author, is trying to be authentic, because one of the big big things, big elements that you need to have in order to write a good story is authenticity. You need to have honest, like I always talk about, honest storytelling. Okay, storytelling not bogged down by some major political issue or social bias, but the focus being remaining on what should happen logically next. Not what should happen next because you thought of a cool scene and you want this to happen, despite the fact that the character would not do that, or it wouldn't make any sense. Or I want this thing to happen because I want this character to become an allegory for Trump or Elon Musk, and I want my characters to fight Trump and win, like they did with Ruby. They made Weiss's father Trump and give him like his own Hillary Clinton and everything. Like, no, that's dumb. That's really stupid. You want the story to be the objective cause and effect. Like, the story can be whatever you want, but once you set the rules, when you set the events in place, you have to follow cause effect all the way through. You can't just break away so you can have your pet scene or whatever if it doesn't make any sense. So when it comes down to authenticity and new up and coming authors having it, it might be a little tough. It might be a little too tall of an order to order. It's kind of why you get like titles like the time I yeeted a love potion at a werewolf, something like that, where it's supposed to be, even the title alone tells you that they're not taking it seriously. This is very flippant, not giving you the vulnerability that an author is supposed to give you. They're not giving you the authenticity the author is supposed to give. They're not taking, like, even the character is not taking the situation seriously. And however you might dislike these big stories like 50 Shades of Grey or Twilight, even these books, these stories were serious about it. Like, the characters felt like they're supposed to be part of that world, that they're taking it seriously. But this is what happens in the new generation of writers, is that none of that taking things seriously, being authentic, is so scary that they can't really do it even when they write a fiction story. It's too scary to be truthful, too scary to be authentic, and it is. You might get some backlash, you might get some hate, but but if you tell the truth and you're honest about it, and you're not just following a trend, you'll probably have some reasons why you like something. Like, people hate Joker 2, but I like Joker 2 quite a bit, and I think it fits with Joker 1 as a follow-up. It might not have been what we wanted, but I could see it making sense in a mindset of where Joker 1 kind of left off. People will dislike this, they'll disagree with this. That's fine. All right, that's the discourse. But but it's not just I want to be contrarian, or because everyone else hates it, so I want to like it or whatever, or anything like that. I apply it to the hero's journey. It makes sense in terms of cause and effect, and also I think it did a really good job in doing what it was setting out to do, in producing a follow-up story. And I could list my reasons. All right, it's the main thing. I could list my reasons. It's not just about being contrarian or anything. It's about having reasons why for liking it, having reasons why to back it up, and I can give you my argumentation. So it's what you want to do is form your own opinion, form your own reasons why you like something, and then you have a discussion, as opposed to this guy doesn't like it, so I don't like it, or whatever that might be, whatever criteria that might be. Like, this guy likes it, so I like it, or this guy doesn't like it, so I don't like it, or this entire group of people that I'm friends with or associate with, or entire circle of people I associate with don't like XYZ film, so I'm pressured into not liking it. You don't want to do that. If you don't like it, it should be on your terms. That's authenticity, right? It should be authentic to you why you do not like something or why you like something. However, again, authenticity of that nature is scary, especially to the modern day, the current generation. As we've seen, there's been studies on this. Like, they're very afraid of authenticity. They're very afraid of anything besides irony. It's interesting. But I think that might be a core reason why the quality of writing and the quality of fictional books has degraded. That's my theory going into this before she says anything. Megathon, thanks for $20 super chat. Thank you very much for the $20 super chat. Very, very generous. Very generous Megathon once again. Holy shit. Thank you very much, Megathon says, I've already got the bones of a new race at another dock to the ever-growing pile. It's a great challenge. Thanks, LD. Sneak peek super mana infused plants. Stay tuned. Thank you much, Megathon. Glad you could get some help with some creativity there. Fantastic. Always good to see. Always glad to see as well. All right, chat. Well, thank you very much. Technically, we are about we're about was it $4 away? We'll say $4 away from Pillarman. Just a little bit more to Pillarman. Little bit more. Just so close, so close. The Megalithon really helped bring us along to just to the brink, but we're real close. Let's see. We have the most intricate inarticulate generation of okay, who said this? Carl Shapiro. When did he say this? Because there's always some old guy saying that this current generation is retarded. So it really kind of depends on when did he say this? 1970? Yeah, it makes sense. See, it's always some old guy. Every generation has an old guy saying the current generation is retarded, and I don't think they're wrong. It's just like it would be more pressing if it's like today, right? Today, where they're saying that the Gen Z is entering college barely able to read a sentence. Not a good sign. Not a good sign at all.
If you want to figure out why people can't write well, can't express or articulate themselves anymore, you have to go all the way back. The first wave of damage that has been done to the minds of would-be writers occurred in elementary school. I would assume that very few writers starting out these days learn to read using phonics, although you do see phonics implemented a little more these days, but never exclusively and never without the added damaging hindrances of whole language, which we'll get into in a little bit here. But even if Gen X and the millennials did eventually learn how to read, studies have shown that readers who learned using word association or whole language have less reading comprehension than those who learned using phonics. Again, give me a second, I'll talk about studies and sources in just a minute. Most casual readers I come across in my daily life don't know grammar. They don't know what it means to diagram a sentence. They don't know what it means to conjugate a verb or identify noun and verb agreement. Most people these days don't know how to spell. How many times have you seen those posts of girls talking about how much they love the smell of their boyfriend's colon? We've reached a
yeah, I remember that. Hold on.
point now.
Hold on.
Language have less reading comprehension than those who learned using phonics. Again, give me a second, I'll talk about studies and sources in just a minute. Most casual readers I come across in my daily life don't know grammar. They don't know what it means to diagram a sentence. They don't know what it means to conjugate a verb or identify noun and verb agreement. Most people these days don't know how to spell. How many times have you seen those posts of girls talking about how much they love the smell of...
I remember this. I saw this a long time ago, like years and years ago, but this was hilarious. Where all these girls talking about how they love the smell, the sweet smell of their boyfriend's colon. When you spray his colon on you, just so you remind him to smell. I guess you got to get him before he leaves, huh? And say, hey, can you spray your colon on me? When he left this morning, I could still smell his colon on my sheets. Oh man, there's some kicky broads here. It's I like to say, look at the financial chat says, by the way, LD, the Fate series that focuses on around waiver explains the power structure of the mages who run things. That's pretty cool. I always like that kind of lore, which is why a big reason why I enjoyed reading Shadow of the Conqueror by Shadowversity. I do like that lore. Now, some people might say there's too much of that in there, and I could see the argument for that. There is a lot of that in there, but I was interested enough of the world to be entertained by it. So I do subjectively like it. Yeah, I like those aspects of it.
Of their boyfriend's colon. We've reached a point now where it's deemed elitist to know which their or your
The Shadowversity. The Shadowversity
is the right one to use in a given context. Forget current year education, which I'm sure is atrocious. Even when I was in school, they had abandoned this focus in education. In place of what? I don't know.
Oh, by the way, we have made the Pillarman chat. We have made the Pillarman. Thank you much, everyone. Appreciate it. Very cool. Thank you for everyone for being very generous. Very much appreciated.
In the 2 years I was in public school, all we did was watch movies, learn about drugs, and glue small pieces of paper to larger pieces of paper. In 4th grade, they also learned how to put condoms on bananas. I'm not sure why 4th graders would need to know how to use condoms, but that's a subject for another
4th grade, really? It sounds like a little early to me.
day. My father had to teach me how to read himself using Hooked on Phonics in the summer between 1st and 2nd grade. Around the time my father figured
I used Hooked on Phonics. It was a lot of fun.
out how ludicrous and pointless school had become, he pulled me out and homeschooled me. I managed to achieve a pretty high reading level pretty quickly.
I mean, I could, but reviewing a novel is a lot. Because it's so much stuff in the novel that you don't really get in a movie, and it's really decompressed in term, compared to like reviewing a movie. But I definitely could, absolutely. Go over all the goods and the bads. It's one of the things is that it's not really a connected plot. It's more like a set of adventures, and that could be an issue for some people. I think it is an issue for me too. Like, it's a bunch of set of adventures, no real actual like hardcore heart plot to it. It's like, oh, we're off to kill pirates now, I guess. So it really is more like a set of adventures as opposed to one big giant thing that leading up to the battle at the end. And so I would say that could be an issue, but there are things I like about it that I've enjoyed. At least I think I've read it 3 times. Either that or I read it twice. I know I've at least read it twice. It could have been I started it a 3rd time and didn't finish it, but I'm pretty sure I know I read at least twice. Let's see. Lady Fastlap, thanks for the $5 super chat. Says, LD, could you make a video with a challenge like the one in chat today? Nothing fancy, but it could spark some similar into a NaNoWriMo way back. I guess I could. That'd be kind of interesting. Yeah. So get some challenges, because that is pretty healthy if you want to start, breathing fresh air into modern day fantasy and or sci-fi and things like that. It could be like I could give like an isekai one too. Pretty cool, I think. That'd be a pretty cool idea for a video, I believe. Why don't you give it out? I'll check it out, see what I can do. A lot of people don't like it, but a lot of people do as well. And I can understand both sides. What I do not understand is the whole pearl clutching of like, oh my goodness, he was a tyrant. He's supposed to have been. Like, he's like if Genghis Khan came back and tried to redeem himself. Now, does he redeem himself? Up to you. Really, I think that's kind of what Shad's point was too. Is like, it's up to you, really, to if he got redeemed or not. It is kind of a tough call because he did so many bad things, and him trying to do good is also not so good sometimes. So it really is what you kind of want to look into and kind of give a little think about what's going on there. But yeah, the wokes, the whole like pearl clutching. I don't really understand. I understand it, I guess, because they're wokies on here, but like that's the pearl clutching is necessary sometimes. But when you're trying to explore humanity and what people write about, you can't really afford to clutch your pearls very often because you're going to run into some weird stuff when going into books of that nature. Like they really explore, humanity in its full raw splendor. You're going to get, like, heck, even Game of Thrones. Did you know that Daenerys is like 13 in Game of Thrones? She's 13 when she sleeps with Khal Drogo. So you're going to run into crap like this all the time. So if you're going to clutch your pearls at this stuff all the time, you could be weirded out by it. You could be like a really weirded out by it. But the thing is, if you're going, even classic stories will have moments like these where it's kind of icky and stuff like that. So you kind of can't really afford to clutch your, like, read Blood Meridian. That thing's just horrific. That book is horrific, but it is a Cormac McCarthy book that's well acclaimed, right? So there's things like this all the time in fiction that are very, very tough to undergo, very tough to witness, very tough to read about. But the purpose is to explore the character or the darkness of humanity or the goodness of some people who step in to stop this horrific nonsense. So the very idea that, oh, how dare Shadiversity have this thing where the guy, killed all these people and stuff like that. Well, okay, it was just done for gratuitous like exploitation. I could see it being questionable. Like, okay, why'd you do that? Just because you wanted to be, more sensational. Like, no. If it serves a purpose of like exploring the world, the character, and humanity in general, it has a purpose. Like, you read American Psycho, there's a lot of horrific stuff that happens in there too. Like, he eats brains and everything. He cooks and indulges in cannibalism, and he's insane. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's crazy dark stuff to the point where they actually did ban that book. Like, if you want to go to, if you're in a college and wanted to like check it out and from the library, you had to go to like the restricted section. Like, there are things that sometimes there are books like this that will go into these dark areas, like American Psycho. But so the whole pearl clutching of those things is being in the book as opposed to looking into why they're there, you're going to miss out on quite a bit.
By nothing more than a little spiteful tenacity in my father's hard work. We definitely need to avoid meaningless excuses like privilege and elitism. Oppression and elitism is not why I couldn't read in the 2nd grade. Privilege is not why I graduated from high school 10 years later with a 4.0 GPA.
Let's see here. Dr. Ryan IV says, good morning, LD and Bezchat. Speaking of beloved fantasy IP holders admitting defeat, GW is about oh yeah, I heard about that too, the scrapping Age of Sigmar. And they're going to have it split. They're going to have the good. They're going to split it between good and evil. So the good humans are going to worship a goddess, and the evil humans are going to worship Sigmar. So you know where that's heading.
My family was not wealthy and had to work all the time like everyone else's families. And yet with some help, I still managed to figure out how to read and how to identify parts of speech. So instead of talking about privilege and victimhood, let's talk about facts. I know some of you hate that word, but I'm sure you can cope. So here are some nice, light facts to start with. The question is, why can't anyone write well anymore? There are a lot of reasons behind this, but we're going to focus our attention today on what is by far the biggest: education and critical literacy. Okay, first of all, I know how much you all love sources, and for today's topic, I'll concede. This data isn't all widely known. Therefore, I've compiled a huge list of sources, explain the literacy controversy, explain the superiority of phonics, and also, if you're interested, how, billionaire industrialists and also the actual government, if you'll pardon my tin hat, deliberately undermined the education system of America over 100 years ago. I put all this together on my website. There's a link in the description. When I first heard the term critical literacy, I was foolish enough to assume that it meant literacy that involved the ability to think critically and to analyze the meaning of the text by one's own power. Turns out, I was wrong. Critical literacy is defined as learning to read and write as part of the process of becoming conscious of one's experience as historically constructed within specific power relations. Critical literacy moves the reader's focus away from the self in critical reading to the interpretation of texts in different environmental and cultural contexts. Further, critical literacy provides opportunities for readers to determine their ability to discern the purpose of texts and also their ability to identify ideologies presented in the texts. As they read, individuals can accept, reject, or reconstruct the ideologies presented in the text to support their own life experiences.
Let's see. Bastian Fits is apparently my first school didn't teach phonics, and it wasn't that good in general. My class had a list of sight words, and one of them was purple. Purple was sight words. Okay. Yeah, phonics is pretty interesting. Like, phonics is pretty important, I think. So I don't know why a school would not teach phonics. It doesn't make any sense. That's like the if there's one thing you teach kids, it's phonics and stuff, I think.
We're not going to dig into this yet, but I want you to keep these definitions in mind as we proceed. Critical literacy, as it is called, and as I have just defined, is the new literacy. Begun in spirit by Paulo Freire, and then more solidly presented by Ira Shore in his 1980 book, Critical Teaching in Everyday Life, critical literacy aims to teach not literacy, but rather a kind of social awareness, which was using teaching reading as a delivery method of sorts, as if reading was just the syringe and this right kind of social awareness was the real thing they wanted the child to receive. Let me show you one quote from this book that should pretty adequately illustrate critical literacy in action. Prior to scheduling classes, Freirean educators study the life and language of their prospective students. These sociological inquiries permit them to discover a small number of keywords from daily life called generative words, which will be used for both problematizing experience and for literacy teaching. The generative words like brick, rice, slum, or wealth suggest social themes around which consciousness can then be raised. The concept of critical literacy then infected the education world. Within 2 decades, it had been adopted by the US government as an aspect of ESL programs. By the 90s, it had quickly but completely become the new literacy. I have a couple quotes from Shore's book and the list of links on my website. If you're curious as to just how disturbing this is, have a read. When people in modern academic and education circles talk about literate kids or teaching literacy, this critical literacy is to them the ultimate sign of success.
It's only ivory tower academics come up with something like this. Yeah, just one of those things is so stupid. It can only come from higher education, which is an idea floated around by George Orwell.
If they can produce a critically literate adult, then they've done their job. Before we get too deep into the effects of critical literacy, which is an extremely crucial aspect of the topic at hand, why no one can write anymore, we should first try to define actual literacy. That is, the ability to read, which of course is the twin brother of the ability to write. We also need to look at the way actual literacy has entered a sharp, alarming decline, which is, and I'll demonstrate this, directly linked to the implementation of critical literacy. That is, actual literacy began to decline when critical literacy became the goal. Defining literacy is a hot topic in education circles. It's divisive and somehow controversial. Even putting aside the jargon-heavy newspeak of critical literacy, the assessment of adults' ability to actually read text on a page or screen is a hot-button issue, which isn't hard to understand. As literacy rates in America drop, everyone's first honest instinct is, well, there must be something wrong with the quality of the education. I mean, education tends to...
says, yeah, sum it up. No child left behind, i.e. lowest common denominator, and progenitor of media literacy. The idea behind it, I think, was we have to pay attention to people that are failing so that, we don't leave anyone behind. But what ended up happening was that if your school fails too many people, it's going to stop getting funding. I think that's kind of what happened. And so they just started passing people. And that's kind of what I've been hearing from a lot of teachers, where that's kind of where everything ended up, where you're not allowed to fail anybody. And there's I've seen some teachers complain about this too, where it's as long as you do the bare minimum, you get the maximum level grade. Sometimes it doesn't matter if you put extra work in there, to the point where the overachievers, the smarter students and the more creative students are not being rewarded for working harder. They're going to come in and say, hey, how come this guy that just brought in like a poster of crayons over that's getting the same grade as me who went all out? Like, well, that's it. Like the most common denominator are the ones that are being cared to the most. And some of the teachers are like, I don't really like this, but those are policies. That's the policy. I can't really fight back against that.
Reply with various bizarrely worded...
It's the policy. I don't think the fight says the same school also didn't teach carrying numbers. What? My brother's teacher didn't even get it. Probably gave my brother his rebellious streak. I remember learning about carrying numbers from school. What are they teaching in school, actually? What's being taught, if not these basic things?
Definitions of literacy, as if to say, no, literacy is not in decline. What you're talking about isn't literacy. And then people start arguing about that, and then the whole issue becomes a pointless shouting match. So before we get into the rest of it, I want to attempt to talk about what...
Isn't that Sitch's law? That's Sitch's law, right? Where every argument comes down to what's the definition of things. That's Sitch's law, right? Pretty sure I remember that being the case.
Literacy even means. I mean, a definition we can all agree on, so that as we talk about this issue, we can all be on the same page, so to speak. Let's put aside all the jargon-heavy definitions that get thrown around by all the players. Instead, let's look at the Program for the International Assessment of Adult Competencies, PIAAC. Literacy is accessing, understanding, evaluating, and reflecting on written texts in order to achieve one's goals, to develop one's knowledge and potential, and to participate in society. This is still pretty jargon heavy, but I think we can manage. I do appreciate that they're at least extremely clear about what they mean by all these individual words. Personally, I greatly dislike this odd word accessing here. To my mind, one's ability to access written text is reading. They mean reading. But there is more to it, as you can see down here. Not just able to comprehend the text they are faced with, they can also reach out to texts that are relevant to their purposes and search passages of interest within those texts. Basically, then, access here means the ability not just to read texts, but also to know where to go and how to find texts on various topics. I would agree that that's another layer of illiteracy, especially for adults, one that is crucial to actual authentic critical thinking, not weirdo critical literacy, which I'm going to get into in a little bit. Nowadays, assessments such as the PIAAC also evaluate a person's ability
Student Fence is LD. If you think this is even remotely new, look up Tom Lear's comedy song, New Math from 1960, about how math teaching changed so much their parents can't understand it. I have seen like they're coming up with new crap every day that is new ways to solve issues, and it gets more and more and more and more complicated. I don't know why the way I was taught is like, okay, here's, add these together, carry the one, add these together, boom, we got it. But now we got to do all kinds of random tricks as opposed to understanding what the numbers mean. So now, like, they don't really understand what the numbers mean. It's kind of like, okay, I do this trick and I get the answer, right? But I don't really know why this comes with the answer. It just does. So as far as I've seen, the new tricks seem to be like less about understanding and more like just do this thing and you get the answer. And see, Alex Halo looks at the $5 super chat. Thank you much. Appreciate. It says, literacy is so bad they made up media literacy, even though you don't read a TV show unless it's subtitles for the anime. Yeah, exactly. You get the sub stuff. But yeah, the literacy is so bad they made up the media literacy because no one else can read anyway. So it's like, excuse me, I have high media literacy. You have low media literacy, and so you should listen to me instead.
to read and comprehend text while being inundated with peripheral distractions. That's certainly relevant, I think we can all agree. So what we're looking at here is how the PIAAC's assessments have proven that literacy, as they have defined it, is in sharp decline. This is important to establish. Actual real literacy is decaying in this country. That's a huge, huge factor.
Mr. Fan says, LD, I'm very tempted to make the Earth Mother deity being in my setting vile and callous, just because I'm so freaking sick of people equating nature with goodness and God with malice, coddled and weak. Yeah, me too. I have the same issues. Like, just how about we make Mother Nature cruel or something? How do we make Mother Nature Mother Nature? Because Mother Nature is not a feminist. So how about we make Mother Nature like what she's supposed to be, which is more neutral? And then, make God good. And I'd be kind of subversive, right? These days that God is good and there's no twist where he's evil. He's just, he's just an entity of goodness. That could be a good subversion. Anyway, chat. Anyway, chat. You can go to the end of the stream here. So let's go ahead and go to stream memes. Here we go. Streaming chat. And we did, of course, make it to Pillarman. So here we go, chat. Lower your volume or raise your volume, whatever you prefer. And Pillarman, loud clip incoming, by the way. Loud clip incoming. Pillarman, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ay, 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 ay.
Oh, yes, best chat. Yes, gods of fitness. Now, the good yin gods of fitness have blessed us this wonderful day. Thank you much, chat, for your generosity. Fantastic. Thank you very, very much. But now we're on to stream memes. Rin War Premium. I remember Win War. It's from a long time ago. Like, it worked just fine. You never had to actually buy the thing. Like, who actually bought Rin War? And was it worth it? That'd be kind of funny. Like, you buy Rin War, and there's so much more stuff gets unlocked. It was like 20 years ahead of its time. We just never found out because no one ever bought the thing. Let's see. It was just I just saw an ad about Sora 2 today, I think this morning or something. Let's see. Google VO, Grok, and all these other things are still in play, I guess. Let's see. What's this? Dumbledore, it's me. Snape, calm down. And then Hell's Kitchen, Resident Gordon Requiem. Resident Gordon Requiem, Hell's Kitchen. Due to gravy shortage, poutine is currently unavailable. No. Let's see. Mouse got into my 2.2 million Scoville flaming anus chocolate bar. Good luck out there, buddy. Man, that must be that book probably exploded. Dude, God turned off smooth lighting. No, why would you do that, God? It's Waldo. I have some good news and some bad news. Good news is I found Waldo. Bad news is where I found him. I was like, Waldo has hid in his last page. Rest in peace, Waldo. Let's see. Fuck you starts eating you. Let's see. Are you sure this is a good idea? If they have stolen your eggs, you must retaliate by any means necessary. Vegeta. Patrick was right all along. Mayonnaise is an instrument of war. When I was a boy, I played a great game. I felt that in that moment I could live to see great sequels. Now I know I shall see only remastered for modern audiences. Let's see. Be the American the Japanese think you are. Yeah, I wonder if Afroman is MAGA. There are signs. There are signs. Laugh all you want, Shonen fans, but in the end, my little porno game has better endings. And see. Grudges. The dwarves are held up by the grudges. But everyone else sinks because of the grudges. And are freed when they let go of the grudges. The dwarves are elevated because of their grudges. Very nice. Very nice. Let's see. Goodness gracious, someone murdered Dumbledore. Are they only allowed to hire gay black dudes? Is that the only thing that happened? Like, because every black guy they've been hiring recently has been gay. Is that a thing where they only hire gay black guys? When you again real insight into the human universe, you lose the capacity to blame. Blame it on the video games. Address the real problems like mental health issues. Newcaster. Oh sure, yeah. Blame the guy whose fault it is. This is what's it called? Disgaea, right? This is the first Disgaea game. If that would have been enough to kill you, I would have killed you a long time ago. Let's see. Good morning, Majesty. Well, if it isn't my faithful vassal Etna. Yes, very faithful. Elf nonsense. Oh, okay, who's been playing Disgaea? Got to Crispin been playing Disgaea recently. You feeling all right, Prince? Boob? Want to touch boob? What boob? That's a good game though. I do like Disgaea. I haven't beaten it, but it is a pretty fun game, I have to say. There's a lot of things you can do in there. A lot of challenges. Big Boob Elf Girl mentioned. It's a Fire deity is real. I will never say that. Termy, you sit on the throne of lies, Mr. Elf. You were where weren't you at elf practice? The plus size elf girl. Text. Let's see. Just eat all the food. Let's see. The Emerald City wasn't actually emerald or even green. It only looked green because Wizards made all its inhabitants wear emerald-colored glasses. Every Land of Oz adapters ever. I'll ignore that. Let's see. One is musical based on the book that features animal cruelty, child abuse, and assassinations, political corruption, and mutilation. The other one is Wicked. Yeah, the movie doesn't really give you the full scope of what Oz kind of is. Let's see. There's Incubus. It's a male succubus. Yeah, there he is. Gotta resist that. Harry Potter season 6, when Snape kills Dumbledore. I'm going to say the I mean, could you blame him at that point? Alex Haley to find out Super Chat says the company that created Disgaea also worked on the first 2 Neptunia games. That makes sense because Neptunia sounds pretty funny, and Disgaea, the first Disgaea game, is pretty funny. Let's see. Like, your name is Mid Boss. What? My name is not Mid Boss. Let's see. Low rank succubus, high rank succubus, S rank succubus, culture weebs. Know your fucking place, trash. Succubus are demons. They aren't cute. Succubus. Let's see. They are cute though. That's kind of what makes them succubi. They have to be. I'm a succubus. I'm going to eat your soul now. No. Succubus versus anime. Like, if they weren't actually, if succubus is not tempting, there's not really an issue, right? Let's see. Local king enlisting monsters. What is this? Oh wait, I remember this. I think I've seen this before. Let's see. So you have bug. You go squish now. Conjugate the verb. Conjugate the verb. Let's see. Yeah, just me when he left this morning, I could still smell the colon on my sheets. You what? Nobody imagines the firearm when modern day firearm when writing the Second Amendment. Nobody imagined modern women writing the 19th Amendment. Huh. Technically true. Read, and Void, read. Those kids could read. They'd be very upset indeed. Let's see. I don't know what to say. Why wouldn't they change math? Why would they change math that way? Math is math. This is math. This is math in Common Core. This is so complicated. Any questions? So complicated. Unidentified special needs child. There we go, chat. All right. Well, here we go, chat. Thank you much, everyone, for joining me today. Thank you much, Best Chat, for always being Best Chat. Hope you wonderful rest of your day. See you again, of course, next time. See, Element Fence says, oh, yeah, LD. I think part of the reason they got rid of noun declensions was to push non-binary BS. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, chat. Have a great day. See you again, of course, next time.
On a cold winter morning in the time before the light, in flames of death's eternal rain, we ride towards the fight. When the darkness has